Welcome, one and all, to the Blade Bias podcast, where me, Brandon, and Ethan, who is my actual son, it turns out, came back from Blade Show 2025 with some fascinating little doohickeys. Some Balisong related, some not, some, we'll talk about that. But Blade Show 2025 was an insane experience, and to tease, I just closed this and water flew out, but we'll get to that. Blade Show 2025 was crazy. There were some crazy Balisong competitions. Ethan and I spent basically the entire weekend together because Ethan stayed with me at my place, and it was great. We had a big party. We tried a ton of cool Balisongs. Ethan had experiences. I had experiences. Will and I filmed a bunch of videos. Experiences. Blade Show 2025 was an experience. Ethan, do you like experiences, my boy, my child?
Goo Goo Gaga or something like that? I don't know. No,
Yep,
Blade Show
yep.
is freaking amazing, bro. I always lose my train of thought right at the beginning of the episode.
Well,
I am
we have
always
I was going to say there was a lot of things to think about, so I would totally understand you mildly.
there are many things to think about, especially where it's like I don't even know where to start. We should start at the beginning, but first, Blade Show is great. Thank you to every single person who came up and said hi to both me and Brandon. It is always nice to see that people aren't afraid of me. Sometimes they are, but I don't think this year people were. So
yeah, I mean, I look at you and sense like a small amount of existential dread whenever I just like absorb your face and your being, but you know,
yeah, no, that's
it's
fair.
less than most other people I know.
No, I think the fear goes away when you realize that I'm actually 5'2". So
Oh yeah, well, you are a 13-year-old boy.
that is true. Yes,
Yeah,
no, that
maybe
is
we'll
true.
explain that. Man, I hope the person who's the origin of that, I hope they are listening. And if they're not, I'm gonna find them and send it because it's gonna be great.
That sounded so threatening. No, but Blade Show continues to one up itself each and every year, which is crazy because we went into Blade Show thinking that 2024 was peak. And while
Yeah.
I do think that 2024 was peak in some ways,
Mhm.
the 2025 topped it as Blade Show usually does. So go to Blade Show. Thank you to everyone who did go to Blade Show. Thank you to everyone who hung out with us. It was awesome talking to you all. And let's get into the Blade Show special, baby.
Yeah, it's hard to know where to begin. I also want to say
Yeah.
thank you to everybody that came up and said hi. Everybody that let us like sign stuff, and like everybody that took pictures. Like it's always a shockingly positive environment, especially
Yeah.
for environment of people that have a ton of knives everywhere. But it's always specifically the Balisong folk are just always just such a treat to get to interact with. So thank you to everybody that came up and said hi. And I still haven't gotten any DMs from anybody saying, "Oh, I wanted to say hi, but like I didn't because of X or Y reason." Thankfully,
I also
that didn't
haven't,
really
which is
happen.
awesome.
Yeah. So we'll see. Uh, but yeah, so 2024, the reason we thought that was peak to a certain degree was we had most of the people that you and I know from the hobby were there, from content creators to close friends. And then there were just a variety of big activities that took place, like the breadening that
Hmm.
happened, which was a whole experience. Uh, Go watch Dusuko Flip's video about Blade Show 2024 if you want to get a peek of the breadening and whatever the hell that was. But
Maybe
we
we'll
had
do it
experiences,
eventually.
yeah, we had experiences like that, and so we were going into Blade Show 2025 thinking mostly because a lot of people that are normally at Blade Show did not attend this year, from various content creators, including your right hand man Ty, who you usually stay with and get to do a road trip with and everything.
Hmm.
He wasn't able to make it, but thankfully that opened an opportunity for you and I to get to go on some adventures together.
To get acquainted.
Yes, yeah, and that actually is one of my main highlights from the whole experience, from just getting to know you better, getting to
Yeah.
just shoot the shit about life, and like just discovering that you and I think about the world in a lot of very similar ways, which was fun. And then you also unlocked a dormant little door in my mind into getting way better at flipping finally. which
which
will
is
be
crazy.
featured probably not in this podcast, but I've really been grinding it out, and I'm really excited about where my flipping is going right now. Like I have a combo that currently lasts about 25 seconds before it's done. Currently, or previously, my longest was maybe like 8 seconds.
My 35-year-old father grows up so fast.
35? No, I'm 29. You're 13. I had you when I was 16, brother. Totally. That's totally what happened. I love keeping people in the dark about that right now. I love that. But yeah, so you came in Thursday. We hung out a
Mm-hmm.
little bit that night. And I think did we go to the pit that night?
No, no, we
No.
literally just
Yeah, we just
there
hung
was
out.
the group hangout at the restaurant, which we weren't able to make it to. So we just
That's
hung
right.
out, got acquainted with your little Pippa
Pippa.
and
Yes.
the
Our
place where I
dog
would be
Pippa.
staying. It was
Yes.
really weird because I said this to you multiple times on the way back from the airport. Normally for me, Blade Show is a big process. It's a 2, maybe even 3 week process. Go down
Yeah.
to Florida, hang out with Ty for a week, and that allows me to build up excitement because I'm not the kind of person who gets like terribly excited about trips until right before they happen. So it allows me to get into that state much earlier, and Blade Show becomes like this thing that I hype up. Blade Show just happened this year. Like
Yeah.
I left work, got to the airport, went on a very short 2-hour flight, and then I was in Georgia, in Atlanta, and the show was the next day. It was
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. Well, so I had a very busy week leading up to Blade Show, because of a variety of non YouTube related client work that I had pop up. So it was kind of a whirlwind for me too. And even
Mm.
that Thursday, I had met up with Zippy Balasong and Buffalo Dingus, and me, Will, Zippy, Armin is Buffalo Dingus, Armin, and then Adriana, my girlfriend. We all went to Heaps. It's a New Zealand meat pie place. We went there that day, and then I had gone to the pit because I had some stuff I had to give to Acid Works that he had to ship to me, which was a wild thing. And then I went straight from there, straight to the airport to get you. So it was also I went from working a ton just straight into, okay, now it's Blade Show time, baby. And that was honestly great.
Yeah.
In terms of the first day of the show, that was the first day, or so what Will and I tried to do was we wanted to film everything on Friday so that we could spend Saturday and Sunday just getting to hang out. Long story short, that did not happen, for a variety of reasons,
I
including
shouldn't be laughing.
Will got a sinus infection Saturday morning, so that caused some stuff. We were gonna like film with Squid Industries, but they weren't able to film with us until Saturday because Lucas had gotten there like that morning at like 6 a.m. Because they had a whole bunch of like flight delays and just crazy stuff like that. So it was a little chaotic, for a variety of reasons. But what was your impression of the show in that first little bit of Friday? Because there was a lot that changed. Normally we have like a Balasong row. We did
Yeah,
still have
Balisong
that.
Alley.
Yeah, we did still have that.
Not not
But like
really though.
machine wise was moved.
Mm-hmm.
A couple like Zippy was in a different spot. Acid Works was in a slightly different spot. Um, so a few places or a few people moved around, but there was some new players that were great. LDY was there.
Yes.
Poikilo was there. Andrew Myers. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of cool makers were all in that little area. But so did it feel like the classic Balasong corner?
It did and it didn't at the same time. I think it was because I went into Blade Show not really terribly excited to try anything, which is a first for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't anything that I could point at and say, "Oh my God, I want to try that or I want to buy that." Like there's a special edition thing I want to go get. Because usually I'll take the first like hour or two try and block everything out as much as I can. It's not really possible to, but as much as I
Yeah.
can, go around to the places that I want to check out and then, check them out. But I really didn't do that. I went to like Zippy and LDY because they were like the two new tables there. And then kind of the chaos started, so it all kind of just blends together for me. Walking into Blade Show and then TV static and then walking out of Blade Show. Um, but my first impression of the show was I don't know if there were more Balisong people or less, but Balisong Alley was crowded as hell the whole
Yeah.
time. It was
Yeah.
just people everywhere. Everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And maybe it was because Zippy and LDY were in one of like the smaller alleyways over on the side, but I felt like I was pushing my way through a crowd the whole of Friday, which was fun.
Yeah, I almost envy your experience of being able to just somewhat authentically just being able to experience the show, which I've gotten to do at
Yeah.
like Blade Show West and Blade Show Texas. But Blade Show Atlanta has basically never been that for me. So for me, we got there and it was immediately going around to the different people that we knew we wanted to make videos with and trying to figure out, okay, who had what would we like to cover, who's interested in doing videos, because we significantly downsized the amount of videos that we are doing this year. Traditionally, we've done multiple big videos, each featuring individual makers. But long story short, we just got very stretched thin trying to do that, trying to do a big, like 15, 20, 25, sometimes 30-minute video with multiple different people, because those take like an hour and a half about to shoot, if not more. I think last year, like the EPS video took us like 2.5 hours to make, which when you're talking about a show that is open for about 8 hours and you're trying to make a bunch of videos, it just uh, stretches you very thin. So we did a big
Yeah.
video about Squid Industries, and then we did a separate big video that's just a compilation of all of the, or pretty much every maker that we were able to make it to. Some Balisong makers we weren't able to feature, but stuff like Acid Works, Machine Wise, EPS, Andrew Myers, Zippy, LDY,
It's going to be a
um,
jam-packed video.
Cerrone. Yeah, I've actually today I was editing it, and I'm actually very happy with it. It's not nearly as long as you would think it would be, but it's still pretty information dense, so I'm happy with how it's coming together. But we did that in theory to allow us a little bit more brevity, which we technically had. But Friday for me was immediately running around and looking at like, oh wow, look at all these things I would love to try, but I just don't really have time to do that. Um, but there were some really fascinating standouts for sure.
Yeah.
One of them I'll just get out of the way, which is unfortunately the only Balisong that I acquired at Blade Show 2025. I have not left a Blade Show with so many strong feelings of, wow, I wish I would have bought more stuff. This
Yeah.
This is the Zippy. You have one too. The Zippy Balisong Bally Quill. It has a thing for a pen. You can put any pen basically into it, and it will flip. And these little things at the bottom, you can unscrew them because the handles are hollow. The handles are hollow. So whenever I said that I was sprayed by some water as I flipped it earlier, that's because these are actually filled with water. uh, because he said you could do that, and I did that. And he was transparent that, oh yeah, it doesn't hold a seal very well, so it will spray you with a refreshing mist as you flip it, and that's exactly what happens. But I can say, this happened not an hour ago, I can say with full honesty that this sentence is true. I filled my Balisong with water and it flipped way better. That is a real sentence that I have said now.
Zippy's a madman, dude.
Yeah.
This is a ballad song that you look at. Like I have praised Zippy very extensively in the past for his immaculate plastic engineering,
Yeah.
especially with his
He's
toolless spacers. This solves no problem. This is not the kind of engineering that you look at and you go, that is a genius way to solve this problem that I've been having for years. This is the kind of thing that you look at and you said, he created this because he wanted to watch the world burn, and I love him for that. Because what the actual fuck is this?
yeah. Yeah. And whenever I say Universal, here's my machine wise Rhoda. That just
It
fits in there. And
it's
wow,
the
is it
kind of
blade heavy now? But
it's the kind of ballad song that really, I say this as the biggest compliment in the world, only Zippy could make, because
oh
who
yeah,
thinks of a essentially two canisters and a pen?
yeah,
And the worst slash best part is it flips ridiculously competently if you actually weight the handles a little
yeah,
bit. Like
yeah,
I have 5 of his, trademark tungsten balls in there,
yeah,
and like I can do whatever trick I want on it. It's also print in place, so he just
yeah,
prints them. There is zero hardware. I can see right through the pivots.
yep.
He just prints it, and that's how it comes out.
Mine is
And
actively
it's like
dripping water right now. By the way, oh yeah, you can see it there.
it's
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 actively
just
dripping water.
it's just the funniest ballad song I think I've ever come across.
Yep.
Kind of like the UFO was, but the
Mm.
UFO was bad. This is like actually kind of good.
The UFO, I think the
And
intent was for it to be good. This was
yeah,
never intended. This is intended to be a joke.
and it just works way too well, which is just
Yeah.
so funny to me. I have no idea how long it's going to last. I have no idea if it's going to break the second that it hits concrete or something like that.
Yeah.
It's
They were
survived so far.
$20, right?
Yeah, they're
20
only 20
bucks.
bucks.
Yeah.
And I mean, here's the problem that it does solve. It's the Spider Co. whatever the frick that thing is called,
The
but good.
Balio.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Balio, but good.
I
And
bought a Balio at the show. I have no idea what happened to it. I don't
I was
know.
gonna say, I
Uh,
remember seeing you bought one,
yeah,
but I don't
I was
remember seeing it at all after that.
yeah, I was corralling all the different things that I acquired at the show. I have no idea what happened to it. Maybe it's in my backpack somewhere. So I did buy a Balio. I just don't know where it is. But yeah, so this was the one thing I bought, which was a big bummer. He had a lot of other cool stuff too.
Yes, he did.
So yeah, so he reworked the Cycloid and the Zippy Lucha to be on the same platform. So you can now put the Cycloid LC, which stands for Lucha Compatible. You can put that on your Lucha blade, or you can just have it as a Cycloid, and it is the best iteration of that yet. I have both
I love Zippy, man.
yeah, I have the Zippy Lucha V1 and the V2. The newest one, the Cycloid edition of it, is so great. He is
Yeah,
an
it's
engineering wizard, and he's like a scientist too. The stuff,
I've been
like when you
saying.
really dive into stuff with him, he knows a lot. And there's so much that goes into 3D printed stuff like that. But yeah,
People
and his
write
booth
him
was
off.
awesome.
I think a lot of people write him off because he just makes plastic stuff. But like, dude,
He's really
the
good
work
at
that
it.
goes into his plastic stuff, and now he's making metal stuff with the parallax. It's like
Yeah. Well, and that
he's
stuff is
kind of
tricky too. Like
he's kind of awesome.
even like putting like 3D modeling stuff to fit into like blade slots and stuff. That is not there's not like official measurements for any of this stuff. He has to do all of that himself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, huge praise to Zippy and all the wonderful things that he's adding to the community. Especially amidst him being, from what I talked to him about, he seems like he is an amazing father to 2 daughters. So the fact that he keeps pumping out what he does and providing what he does to the community, despite being a father to 2 daughters, and his wife is lovely as well. But yeah, he's crushing it. So huge praise to Zippy. And then yeah, right next to Zippy, was LDY, which was lovely, and that's one of the boys I wish I would have bought. It was right there. It would have been so easy. They're not making anymore. I was at the table ready to buy stuff, and then Will, not Will Hirsch, Will LDY Will, who's lovely by the way. We started having a great conversation, and he pulled me behind the booth, and we had a great chat. And I'm like, oh well, I have other stuff I need to go do, and so I never bought anything from LDY, and I wanted to buy a Frank, I wanted to buy an Orion, maybe even a Sirius, maybe one of the aluminum Cygnuses. I didn't buy a thing, and I'm very upset about that. But
Oh man, seeing LDY was a great presence at the show. They had the 80-pound Sirius that was taller than I was.
yes, yeah,
Which was a spectacle of people like picking up. By the way, both of us were completely off on our predictions. It sold for $1,500, so
oh yeah,
they definitely lost a lot of money on that one.
they lost a lot of money on that one, yeah. Especially
Buffness
like Will
made out like a bandit.
yeah. So yeah, to clear up that mystery, the Buffness ended up winning it, and yeah, it was $1,500. I think I said I hope they would get like at least like $5,000 for it. But yeah, that's the price of like a middle of the road like JK design Balisong, let alone an 80-pound one of one thing selling for $1,500. But congrats to the Buffness. It was actually extremely heavy. And it was on bushings
very cool
too, and the
it was
washers
on bushings
had like
and yeah,
you saw the washers, good,
and
good.
like 5-stack deep washers. It was awesome.
Yeah. You'll see it in the Will Hirsch channel video, because we do a whole feature of it and stuff. But they were great. LDY Will was just awesome to get to interact with. He shared some really kind stuff with Will and I. He really admires really the whole Balisong space, but even like he said some really nice stuff about you as well. And just great person, very way more enthusiastic about the hobby than you would expect. But yeah, so total treat getting to interact with him. One of the coolest things they had outside of the Sirius was their aluminum Damascus Sirius that they had.
And it genuinely flipped better than any Sirius I've ever tried. And I think a lot of people shared that.
Do you know
Jack Pyro, I think, said it was, quote, one of the best aluminum Balisongs he's ever flipped.
Do you know the story of it? Do you know how many of those existed and
It's
why
just
that many
like
existed?
fully assembled.
Yeah.
It's just the two, right?
Yeah, they made over 100 handles.
Mm-hmm.
And
But they couldn't get them like properly tuned in or something like that.
yeah, and like 2 of them ended up being usable, and that's the one they ended up auctioning it. And I think, did the Buffness win that too?
No, I think it was Lixie Flips from the Blade Bias Discord. And then they sold the demo, because they had a demo one and then the one they were auctioning. They sold the demo to the second place winner, who was Ted, who now owns
Oh, that's
that.
right, Ted.
And he's been sending me updates on it, and it is not going well because the handle gap is like disappearing on him, and the blade is hitting the inside of the channel. Like the thing, I see why they don't want to make it.
Oh, I guess, is it because the aluminum isn't as durable?
I forget what Ted said his theory was, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like the Zen pins might be compressing at the Zen pin area. I know they said it chips easier. So I think that's why the blade is damaging the inside of the handles. But as for the handle gap, I'm not really sure. Ted said he thought he knew why. I forget why he said. It was something like the tune might not have been right on it or something like that. I'm not entirely sure.
No. For those not in the know on it, what it basically was, like if you're familiar with like Damascus steel, it was basically that, but it was aluminum. So it looked like it had like a really cool kind of wavy pattern to it, but it wasn't laser engraved. It's like that's how the aluminum exists with those wavy
And it made the
patterns
handles denser so it added a
Yeah.
little more handle weight. It flipped way better. I really liked it. I kind of
Yeah.
wanted to buy it, but
I was there whenever you were like, I think whenever you learned Ted won it or for like whatever price he did, and you were like, I totally would have paid that amount. Shit.
because I
Yeah.
was thinking about putting in a bid just to like do it, but no, I'm happy Ted has it because Ted has that awesome collection of like one of one ballad songs. He's got like his
Yeah.
Koenig. So ultimately, I'm happy that he's got that. But oh, I would have bought that thing so
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah. We both left LDY with a damn. I wish I would have bought that. But the stuff I wanted to buy wasn't nearly as exclusive. um.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But so LDY was great. We had a great time with them. Then in terms of other fun stuff, Squid Industries had some fun stuff to show off as well. Oh my god, that would have been that was what like $110.
Yeah.
I totally, and they're not making the comb.
Yeah, I don't know why
I
they're
need
allergic to making the comb.
I need to set aside more time next year to actually be able to shop and not like because you and I spent some time walking around and looking at different things, but like I need just a little more time to so I can actually look for cool stuff. Um, but the stuff that was easy to find was Squid Industries. Out of their new stuff, they had the Mako live blade.
Mm-hmm.
They had the Nautilus live blade, the
Yes.
newer Hydro trainer. And I think that was
Yes.
most of their notable like new stuff.
Ultem Nautilus,
Ultim Nautilus, yes.
and then Bowie Nami.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. What'd you think of all those?
I was whelmed. I couldn't. I have to be honest with you. I did not pick up a single thing at Squid Industries this year that like new things because I ultimately did end up making a purchase from them. I didn't pick up any of their new prototypes and go, wow, like I really want this to exist. Like I remember the
Yeah.
first Blade show I went to, they had the Hydro. I was like, damn, this thing is so sick. And now I'm like, I don't really like the Hydro. The Swordfish was really like I left Squid Industries thinking, wow, these are super sick. I left this year just thinking like the Ultim Nautilus is cool. It
Hmm.
flips a little better.
Yeah.
Live Blade Nautilus. I know some people are going to be excited about that, but I'm a Nautilus hater, so like I'm obviously not going to have any huge feelings about that. The Mako Live Blade, it looks cool. It's a great price for an aluminum American made live blade, but like damn, they picked the one trainer in their lineup that is like almost only works as a trainer and then
Yeah.
made it into a live blade,
Live
which was a
blade.
strange choice. I think they should have brought back the Triton to turn it into a live blade. I think that would have went way better.
Ah.
Um,
Yeah, that would have been
it was
interesting.
cool. It was cool. Like the live blade Nautilus was. It was all cool. I just can't say I was particularly like stoked on any of it.
Okay. I wasn't really either. The Live Blade Nautilus I thought was cool. I liked the design of it. The one they had didn't have a great tune on it. And so that
No.
was one of the things I was curious to hear was the proper sound because the Nautilus already has what I feel is a very this is my V1 with the glider scales on it. It has a very pleasant sound to me, and with a live blade, like it would be in theory a deeper sound to it.
Yeah.
But since it didn't have a great tune, I wasn't able to get a great beat on that.
You can't hear
I,
anything in there anyway.
yeah, but it flipped great, or to me in terms of the Nautilus flips great in general, and it didn't change anything major in that regard. I think if anything, I wish it would have actually been a little bit closer to neutral in terms of the balance because the Nautilus is already pretty handle heavy.
Yeah.
But
It
it
felt to
was
me like they
a
killed a lot of blade weight.
yeah it is not a final prototype. They finished it a day before the show.
Oh, I didn't know
And I
that.
yeah, which is also the same thing that happened with their with the original iteration of the Mako Live Blade that they brought to Blade Show Texas. They finished it the night before.
Wasn't the aluminum squiddy like that as well?
I think it. Oh yeah, yeah.
Didn't they
Interestingly,
like bring
they
it
didn't
out
bring
mid
that.
show?
Maybe they had it. Did you see the alt the Squiddy.
Oh, I totally
Wow.
forgot they were making an alt blade for the Squiddy. No,
Yeah,
I
the
don't think it was
alt.
there.
Yeah. I don't think I didn't see it. Yeah, they were
They're
making a
making like
different
a,
version.
for context, they're making like a Tonto style blade for the Squiddy Al,
Yeah.
which looks sick. You're right, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. Um.
I have to give
But
Squid credit. They're doing a lot.
oh
They're
yeah.
doing a lot, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah. Yeah. So and overall, like none of their stuff, in my opinion, flipped poorly. Um.
Yeah,
By any stretch of the imagination, there's still a very solid baseline as to what a decent ballad song can be.
yeah.
And even the Tonto, no, the Bowie, tsunami. I thought it was pretty sick. I really liked the new blade a lot, both from a look standpoint and how it flipped. Because the flipping
I'd have
was
to,
very similar, but
yeah.
just different enough.
I'd have to take a look. I never really got a good look at it. I got it after they finished filming with Blade HQ. I took some B-roll of it and then I put it down and walked
Mm,
away, which I should have like actually sat with it and looked at it.
yeah.
Because if you asked me what it looks like, I couldn't even pull it up in my head if I wanted to.
You'll see it
Um,
in the Will Hirsch
yeah,
video. We go
so
pretty in
I don't
depth
have
on
any
it.
opinions on it now. I think it was probably my favorite new thing that Squid had.
Yeah.
That's wrong. The surf. The surf was my favorite new thing that Squid had. I liked
Mm.
the surf. It was fun.
My fun little EDC bag I got, by the way. It's very fun. It's not full right now because I've been pulling things out. Yeah, the surf.
The
I almost
surf.
bought a surf for Adriana because they had it in a nice blue, but I didn't. She wouldn't use it enough for me to spend $250
Yeah.
on a pocket knife, so I didn't do that. But no, they
I
always put
was.
on a good show. So what were you gonna say?
Oh no. I was gonna say I was gonna buy a surf. I didn't because Squid did the most based thing I think they did at the whole show was having their clearance bin. They had
Mm,
the blemish bin where it was basically just you ask for the clearance whatever and they pull out this giant case and in it is a bunch of blemished damaged shop part whatever. It was basically calamari clearance, which is their blemish section
yeah,
in person, which allowed me to get this thing, which it was basically this. It wasn't this bad because I've been flipping it nonstop, but it basically just had some scuffs on the bottom of the handle.
yeah.
Um,
You since you're my son, you inherited my squid trainer.
yeah,
Yeah,
look at
so we
that.
cloned it. Yeah,
We did clone it. And I got it for like $50 off or something like that because it was beat
yeah,
already. But Squid Trainer V4 bushings, I've wanted one since I sold my original V2, the gray and black one.
yeah.
And I am extremely happy to have one in my collection again. It's been my most flipped trainer since I got back from Blade Show.
Yeah, dude, I keep circling back to this out of all my trainers. It's weirdly become I started to damage it relatively early on after I got it. And now it's
Mm-hmm.
become whenever I like take Pippa on a walk, it's been the thing that I grab because I'm like, it's already damaged. Like whatever if it falls on concrete a couple more times. But I really enjoy it. Like it just has that nice solid grip to it. It has a really nice. The sound to me is way better, and the ring is less sharp because of the bushing tune.
Mm-hmm.
I think. And yeah, I the Squid Trainer. There's a reason it launched Squid Industries the way that it did, because it is just it's a
Yeah.
solid, simple but effective design.
And I
So I'm
know
glad you're
people are going to
enjoying it.
say it. I can't deny that the older versions flip better because all the changes that they've made over the years have lowered the weight in the handles.
Yeah,
So flipping like a V2 or a V1, ultimately I prefer, but the comfort upgrades that they've made to the V4, the rounded everything, the jimping, the bushings, the chamfered blade spine just make it better to flip even if the balance isn't totally what it used to be.
yeah,
So I'm very happy with it.
yeah. I'm glad you're happy with it. Yeah, I, despite me not being super stoked on it in terms of flipping, I wish I would have bought one of the Mako live blades. That's another one I wish I would have bought just because it's a. I don't own a Mako, and if I and I
Oh,
don't
okay.
need more trainers, and so that would have been a cool pickup to make that wouldn't be super expensive. Because let's not forget the Mako light blade is on bushings now too, and
It
so
is, yes.
for I think it was like 160, 170,
175, I think.
175, yeah. Which is like $50 more than the trainer model, which honestly to me with
Yeah.
bushings and a live blade and sharpening a blade is far more complex than you would imagine it would be for the way that they have to do it. I thought that was a fair price. So if they had, I didn't really get to look at their inventory, but if they had like a cool like dual tone one or something like that, I probably would have picked that up, but just didn't have time at the end of the day. But they put on a great show, as they usually do. They had their tuning booth again, which some people had some problems with, but that's a whole different discussion for another time. But
Yeah.
if you are giving your balisong to Squid Industries at the Blade Show booth for them to tune it, proceed with caution, is what I will say. Poor Vinny. Vinny's the person that does their tuning. He was so stressed that whole show. Like, I just kept looking over at him, and he was just, because he got in late to the show. Because they all, like every Squid Industries employee, had travel woes in terms of getting there. That poor
Lovely.
guy. Then right next to Squid was Poikilo.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any impressions of their
The
stuff?
only thing that I did with Poikilo was try out that like $4,000 knife that looks like it's straight out of Valorant. It like flips
Oh
open
yeah,
and then it like expands,
yeah.
and that was it.
Oh, okay.
Probably a regret of my show is that I didn't spend any time around their booth.
I
Because
basically spent no time at their booth either.
I think they're. I remember there was one company that was at Blade Show West that the community was like, "Wow, this is a company I wasn't aware of," and they surprised. I think it was Poikilo that they were
Yes.
talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
So I probably should have spent more time at their booth. I ultimately did not, and I'm not like beating myself up about it, but
They'll be back.
yeah,
They'll be back for sure. Yeah, I had intended to do stuff with them, but I had a very baffling interaction with them at one point, and that hadn't been like cleared up, and so I never ended up having a conversation with them. But the stuff they had looked very cool, and they like that weird crazy knife that won best in show at Blade Show West because it's just
hmm
insane how they got it to work. So they're definitely making some cool stuff, and I'm excited to see where they go. Across from them was Haze Tack. Did you spend any time with their stuff?
I have to be honest with you. I didn't even realize that they were there, which sucks because the devil. I think no, it was the jigsaw, not the devil. The jigsaw is the thing that like sent me down the path of discovering weight distribution for myself
Oh
way
yeah,
back in the day on Blade Bias. If you've seen those videos, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
Um, so I genuinely just didn't even realize they were there.
yeah. They were one of the people that we could have potentially filmed with, but we've never really had a conversation with them before, and so by the time we got where we were in our production process, it was gonna be a leap to try to like jump in at the point that we were to try and film with them. But
Mm.
at Blade Show, you get handed so many different wacky things just out of the blue. Sorry, I bumped my mic. Uh, I don't know what model it was. I don't know the origin of it. I don't know the story. But at one point at the pit, someone handed me a Haystack knife. I recognize the logo. One of my favorite things I've ever flipped in my entire balisong career.
Really?
I don't know what it was called. I don't know anything about it. I know it had a
The
kind of raw.
Cinderella Balisong.
I don't even remember who gave it to me to flip. I have no idea, but I just remember that thing flipped and sounded awesome. And
If
I
you're
have no
watching this,
idea.
you probably remember giving it to Brandon.
Hopefully.
What was that?
Yeah, it was completely. If you are in the comments, please let me know
We
what
need
it
the
was.
glass slipper.
I know I didn't even take a picture of it. I have no idea what it was, but it was raw. It didn't have an ano or anything, and it was just pure metal.
It
That
was
shit was
titanium. It
metal,
was
brother.
probably the devil. It was probably the devil, I think. I'm not super
I don't
familiar
know.
with that
I could look
lineup.
it up right now, but I'll never find it. So if you're in the comments, please, maybe I need to make like an Instagram post that's just like PSA, random person, what ballad song was that? It was great. I loved it. But that was my only time that I spent with any of their stuff. And then with EPS was also there again this year. They had some cool stuff, including one that Rick, the founder, was very much hyping up, but also didn't know what it would. He was really hyping up a ballad song that he didn't have fully solidified in his head, but what he
Yeah.
described seemed very cool. It was based off of they have a they had it last year and they had it to demo this year. It's basically full channel titanium and also full channel G10 all in one. I don't know how they do that. I don't know
So
how they
basically,
manufacture that.
to describe this a little better to you guys, it is think full channel titanium, but how they do the Vault Pro, but down the side with G10.
Yep.
So there's a little section on the side that is fully G10, and then it wraps around to the face of the handles. But if you look inside the handles, typically you would see the G10 showing through. It is full, uninterrupted titanium.
Yeah.
So it's basically just like a thing that hugs the channel construction of the handles, and it was brilliant. I want to give EPS. I want to give two people my winners of Blade Show award because it's
Oh,
EPS and it's Zippy. They were my winners of Blade Show this year.
maybe that's a future thing we should do for future Blade shows.
Yeah, I
Is
think I
just
did it
who
last year
won.
as well.
Yeah.
Like who was my favorite booth? EPS had my favorite flipping ballad song at Blade Show, which was that prototype that you were talking about.
Yeah, they're now calling it
And
the Mod
Zippy.
X. Is what they're
Oh, I
calling
didn't
it.
know that. It
Yeah,
was
he talked that.
unnamed
We filmed with
when
him.
I was talking to him. And then Zippy wins my, like, I bought the most stuff from Zippy, and I probably had the most fun at Zippy's table.
Yeah, he did. He had one of the most attractive looking booths. He really upgraded
Yeah.
everything that he did. He had displays made by Oatmeal Flips. You and I have Oatmeal Flips. I can see it there in your background.
They
Um,
probably can't see it, but it is there.
it is there. Um, had cool displays with that and had a cool like rotating little display thing for all of his mods. Last year he just had stuff like in bags next to
Yeah.
him. But so he completely revamped what he was doing. Yeah,
And
had a great show.
shout out to the brotherhood. You want the true, like, brotherhood of ballad song makers. Most ballad song makers had a sign at their table that said,
Yeah.
"Do you want to trick out your new purchase? Go check out Zippy at table 34F," or whatever the hell he was, which
Yeah.
was so cool to see. Especially hearing there were a few people that I talked to at the show who were like, "Yeah, this other hobby that I'm into, all the makers just like hate each other, and it's like this big war." And it's like, I can't even imagine that. And I think we
Yeah.
don't realize how good we have it with our makers because they're just willing to do stuff like that, which was awesome. I love to see it.
Yeah, his support of so many different people was so much fun. And we did do him dirty. We didn't mention one time the Parallax, his live blade
Oh yeah.
titanium
I mentioned it. We
triple
didn't talk about it.
liner. Okay. Yeah, but he's like a triple liner titanium sandwich sort of thing with also 3D printed stuff with a screwless or hardwareless spacer that you can remove without like it doesn't have any screws holding it together. It was super cool. I was super impressed with it.
Basically, think this is vastly oversimplifying what the parallax is. Think titanium balisong with his nylon, what the cycloid's made out of, scales.
Yeah,
Pretty
glass
much.
filled nylon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
that
his first live blade. And it was so
that's
cool.
probably my biggest disappointment of the show because I went there and I tried one. So okay, not the parallax is not disappointing. I went there and I tried one, and I was like, I was kind of getting into the idea that maybe this would be my Blade Show purchase.
Ah,
And I was like, how much are these? And he hit me with the $400, which is a totally fair price. I'm not knocking the price at all, but it was just more than I was willing to spend. So it just
yeah,
kind of hit me in the gut a little bit. I was like,
yeah,
oh, no parallax for me this year.
yeah.
That's
I was kind of
okay, but it's really cool. It was also the only thing that cut me. I
really.
got two cuts all weekend, and both of
They're
them were
both
from Zippy.
really.
So
I
one
don't
of
think
them
I
was
knew
the
that.
parallax. It was one of the first things I flipped. It just caught me on my finger, and I looked down and I was bleeding. I don't know when it happened. The other one was just me being a fucking idiot, reaching onto the table to put down one of his displays back on the display, and my finger just like touched. He had the Jimpy mini Sentinels there. My finger literally, I
Ah,
didn't like pull it up or anything. It just touched the blade as I was setting it down, and it like got me just a tiny bit. It wasn't like a crazy cut. It wasn't bleeding or anything. It was like a paper cut,
yeah.
but those were my two cuts. And I flipped a lot of live blades, so I'm kind of proud of myself, but it's also just really funny that I can say that the guy that primarily has made historically plastic trainers is the guy whose table gave me the only cuts I got at Blade Show.
Wow. Wow. But so did you like how it flipped? Other than the way
I
it harmed you physically?
I did. And I also never really got like a full chance with it. I'm just now realizing
Yeah, I never really
because
did either. I like
the
whenever I get to interact with it once we're shooting B-roll and I'm really just holding it, but I don't really get a chance to like flip it and I never like circled back to it. I flipped it a little bit, but not
the
in the way I
problem was
wanted
he
to.
kept the demo razor sharp, and he
Yeah.
was in such a compact area that I was always surrounded by people. So I
Yeah.
never really had the chance to like properly flip it in a way where I could have like actually gotten some ideas on how it flips. Same with the Lucha, but a little less so. I think I got like maybe 30 seconds to actually properly flip it. And I like it. I like it. I
Yeah.
like the idea. But I can't really say much more than that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the to circle back to the EPS stuff. Like it's another like that'll be interesting to see how it evolves kind of thing. I think the parallax is super cool that he's been able
Mm.
to mash what he has in such a solidified way. Who knows what the Mod X is going to turn out to be, but I think as Zippy continues to refine the parallax, those just really interesting mixes of materials that no one's done before is just super sick to me. So I fully support them in terms of innovating in that regard because that stuff is really tricky and really difficult.
Yes, it is.
Weirdly, my most positive, or one of my most like, it just brought pure joy to my face whenever I learned this, and I was so stoked for this person. But it was the EPS Tonto Tie Wraith, which I really
Thing was
liked.
fire.
That thing was fantastic. Really liked it. Um, but my and now our good friend Charlie, his main also Charlie,
I
if
love
you're
that guy.
listening, Charlie, we're I told so many people, I'm like, guys, I cannot wait for you to meet Charlie. He's awesome. And then you met Charlie. He's like, you're
He was
like,
hyping you
bro,
up.
you were like, dude, Charlie's sick. Like, oh my god, he's great. And I'm like, yeah,
You
he's
lived
awesome.
up to the hype, which is impressive because Brandon really was hyping you
I,
up.
I did hype up Charlie a lot. We met at Blade Show West. We stayed at an Airbnb or at our Airbnb together. We just happened had never really spoken to him before. We happened to really hit it off. He's a huge Lord of the Rings nerd, so that and I also am. So that was the inception point. But just great person. Uh, but the one thing that Charlie wanted was a Tonto Tie Wraith, and he really tried to get one on Friday, but he couldn't get it. So he was talking to me later, and was like, "Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to show up on Saturday at like 4 or 5 a.m. to get in line to try and get one, and just hope." They said they're gonna sell a couple more tomorrow, and I just have to hope that I get one in time. And I was like, bro, I'm so like, God, you're gonna have to get up so early to get that. But I respect you so much that you're doing that. Long story short, the reason I was so thrilled was I think it was Friday night at the pit. He came up to me and he was like just the biggest smile on his face, and he had one in his hand. And I'm like, oh my God, what? He's like, yeah, someone had one and they wanted to trade for it. Or no, or they didn't trade for it. They're like, they had it and they sold it to me for like a little bit of a markup. And I just kind of hounded them for a good long while, really, really trying to work my way into them letting me buy it. And so he did that. And I think he paid like $50 more than MSRP for it, which when you're having to get up, spending $50 to not have to get up at like 3 or 4 in the morning and get to the show
That's
at
worth
5
it
in
to
the
me.
morning, and knowing that you're going to get it and that you're going to be good and you're not going to have to go through that whole experience. Like, I would pay $50 to have to bypass all of that. So that was one of the happy moments where I was just so stoked for him. I'm like, you get to enjoy it. You don't have to get up at 3 in the morning. That's so sick. So I was really excited for him with that.
And speaking on that, I think EPS definitely won in terms of like having the most, I'll call it the tsunami effect, like
Mm.
the most hyped up knife that like everyone was trying to get. People were lining up early for it. People were running in the doors to try and get. It was the Wraith. It was EPS stuff. I think Squid might have even had some tsunamis left at the end of the show, which is just
I
crazy
think
to me.
they did at Blade Show
Thinking back
Texas.
to 3 years ago when the tsunami sold out in the first 5 minutes of Friday. So congratulations to them. The Wraith has wormed its way. Every time I hear Will talk about the Wraith, he's like, "Oh, it's a perfect ballad song," because that's kind of how he's like, "This is like my ballad song. I love it so much."
Yeah.
And every time I would go, "Man, last time I tried that, I just didn't like it that much. I don't really see what he sees in this thing." But trying it this year, bro, I see it now. My eyes have been opened. It has
Yeah.
wormed its way into my brain in a way that I didn't really think it would, and I genuinely want one so bad.
Yeah. If it was actually available, um,
I would have bought one all day if
yeah,
I was
yeah,
capable of it. Yeah.
yeah, I probably would have as well. I also would have bought that Mod X prototype. Like if he ever sells that,
Oh,
like that would be
no,
such a
forget the
collector's
Wraith. Give me
item.
that thing. If
Yeah.
that was sold, give me that all day. I don't care how much it is. I do care a little bit, but as long as it's under $500, I'm in. Just get it in my hands. It
Yeah.
flips so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Then I guess from there, was that everybody in the Ballast Song row? I think
There
it.
was
Oh, Acid Works.
JK and his new regime.
Yes, that's right. JK and Acid Works. Um, what do you think of the regime? I don't think we talked at all about the regime. It's there.
I
Fill people in. It's a $300 7075 aluminum live blade from JK. That's I don't know if you knew this. Did you know they made it on a? He makes it on a Swiss lathe.
I think I did.
Okay.
I think
A
I because
Swiss lathe
he
is very different than a standard CNC, but it's $300, which is pretty expensive for an American. Honestly, for an American-made live blade, it's not very expensive. But
it
it's
isn't. I think
way
it's the
cheaper
best
than his stuff
value.
normally is. Yeah,
It's the best. It's I think it's just objectively like comparatively the best value from JK.
yeah.
But I flipped it, and I have to be honest, it grew on me. The first time I flipped it, I was like, not for me. The second time I flipped it, I was like, eh. The third time I flipped it, I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. Chat, is this something? I think so. But you pick it up, and I can't really describe it. You almost instantly understand how it is $300, how it is so
Mm,
comparatively cheap to his other stuff, because the handles weigh nothing.
yeah.
It is so light.
It was
It's
3.4 ounces.
yeah, it's one of those ballast songs where it's like if you take the screws out of the bottom of the handles, I'm not even sure it will have the momentum to flip.
Yeah,
Kind
for
of like the
comparison,
Cycloid V2. Like you take the weights
yeah,
out of the Cycloid V2, it doesn't flip. That's how I felt the regime would be.
yeah. Like the Teflon Volt, this weighs 3.9 ounces, and it's a pretty light ballast song. So Yeah, 3.4. That's pretty light, especially for something with a steel blade and aluminum
Yeah,
handles. Like that's pretty light. I
on
liked
first
it.
pickup, I was like, this is not gonna flip well, and then it did flip well. I have to give him credit; it flipped
Yep.
well.
Yep.
But
It
yeah, just
was. Sorry, you can finish your thought.
no. That I mean, that was basically it. It just didn't feel very substantial,
Yeah.
in its heft.
Yeah, I think if you were to hand something like that to someone who isn't as experienced with ballad songs, they would probably think it's really cheap because
Yeah,
it's as light as it is. But with our huge collections, it was one of those things of like, it's an interesting change of pace.
it is.
It
It's like the ultralight from NRB, if you're
yeah,
familiar with that. It's like
yeah,
it's a fascinating addition to a collection, but
yeah,
not something that I would point to as like this is the pillar of value in the aluminum space.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
It was cool that it was made with a Swiss lathe. I don't know if like
Yeah.
because I've seen a Swiss lathe work like compared to a CNC. Like we describe it or Will did a really good job of describing it in the video that we did. But a normal like CNC, you have a pallet and then you have the parts attached to a pallet and the machine comes down and it does its machining. And if you want to change sides, like say you want to machine one side of the handle, then you want to do the other side of the handle, you have to remove the part from the pallet and reposition it and then go again. With a Swiss lathe, basically takes a circle of metal and like extends it out, and then you can attack it from pretty much any angle you want, and you can either move the part toward the tool or the tool toward the part, and you can spin the whole thing. So that was what he was saying of like in the video that we did with him about why it could be that cheap is because the actual process of machining it requires way less like actual like changing of pallets and just things like that, and
Less
they can be
intervention. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, because you're basically taking like imagine just a handle, and instead of like machining on the top of it, and then you flip it over or pull it out of the pallet, reposition it, you can basically turn the whole thing and machine it that way. And that's normally how like companies like Squid Industries and Machine Wise, that's normally how they make their hardware is with the Swiss lathe. That's
Oh,
also
okay.
how the Machine Wise Rhoda is made. That's made on a Swiss lathe.
That's
Um,
impressive that he managed to get that to work. I
yeah,
got
he
to give
also did
credit
his
there.
own anodizing too, which is difficult to do with
Yeah.
aluminum. So it was
I mean,
great getting
that's
to
basically
reconnect with
what
him.
killed Machine Wise's lineup is aluminum
Yeah,
anodizing.
yeah. He straight up said that all of his T-shirts have holes in them now because of the acid that you need to
God.
anodize aluminum. But it was great getting to reconnect with him. Will and him have had a bumpy relationship for a variety of reasons, but him and I talked about, or Will and I talked about it beforehand. We're like, let's do it. We want like we can work through all that other stuff. He's putting out some great products. He's refined like a lot of the more problematic ways that he's made things in the past. And so he's a great person to get to interact with. He really likes the community and likes making cool stuff. So it was great getting to have that relationship patched up between him and Will. Because they have had some problems. The main thing for those not in the know, Will had a whole saga with his JK his Monarch JK design Monarch, where it had handle slap and it he had to send it back and forth to JK, and it turned into a whole big thing. And then Will didn't really like one of the products he made, and then that turned into a whole big thing, and it was just a whole big thing. Uh, but it was great getting to patch that up. Next to JK Design was more technically, vaguely JK Design products, and that was Acid Works or
Mm-hmm.
Paul, which we will talk about that the Balisong competition that he put on, which was one of my favorite experiences of the whole show, frankly. But he makes the Zyzix, which there are now 5 different blades for the Zyzix now, I think.
Which is insane.
Maybe even technically 6, but they are all wacky, especially the new 2. One of them, do you? One of them was called the Judas. Do you know what the other one is called?
I
It was
don't.
the one that was triple edged.
Triple edged.
Yeah, with like a rectangular looking blade.
I
Did
didn't
you not
see
get to
this
flip
one.
that? You didn't see that?
So,
Oh,
okay, this is another thing that I'm just now realizing. 2 weeks from the show, I didn't stop at Acidworks once
really?
because every
Wow.
time I passed his booth, usually when I stop and I look, Paul will see me and then we will talk. And
Yeah.
every time I passed his booth and said, I still have to go there, I said, okay, no, I'm on a mission right now. I can't stop and have another conversation with Paul. As much as I want to, I can't. I need to keep going. And that just kept happening until the first time I said hi to Paul was when he was walking out of the show with his stuff.
Oh. Oh,
I
and I
feel
remember
so
that. He was
bad.
like leaving
Yes.
too.
I feel so
Oh
bad.
man.
That's Blade Show for you. That there you go.
You did get to experience the effort that Paul puts into the Battle Song hobby with the
Yes.
competition, which we'll talk about because we're
Yes,
still
I did.
technically on Friday right now. We haven't even gotten to Saturday, but we're working our way through it. We're gonna
We're
hit our
dealing with the
mark.
products. We're talking about the
Yes,
products, which takes longer than everything else. So
yes. Um. Well, that's fascinating. I guess I can report
yeah.
in on them. Then the other one that he had, it is called the. I'm gonna try my best. It's called the It's Pop a Lot, and it has the wildest spelling I've ever seen. It, I
It's
guess,
pop a
is
lot
a.
of words.
It's a. I hard. No, I'm not gonna explain that. Uh, it was, or I guess It's Pop a Lot is like a Greek goddess, I think, or something like that. But it was a rectangular blade that was triple edged. It had a normal edge. Wow, I don't have any live blade balisongs near me at all right now, and I don't know why. Here we go. It was triple edged, so it had the normal edge that you would have, but then also here, like all the way along the spine of the blade, had an edge, except for like here where you would like chaplain. This was edged, and then because it was a rectangular blade, the tip or like the whole top
Oh,
of it
I did
was
see this.
also
Yes,
edged. Okay.
I did see this.
So that thing was wild. And then he also had one that looked like an arrow head almost.
Hmm.
That had a very, very pointy tip, but also it wasn't sharp on the sides. If you wanted the actual look at all of this stuff, the video that will be coming out on the Will Hirsch channel within the next, who knows when this podcast is going to release. Maybe it's live right now, maybe it's not, but there will be a video about it, I promise, and you'll be able to see most of these things, pretty much all of them.
This will be out before the end of June. We're filming this on the 17th. I would say next week.
Okay, then yeah, it'll definitely be out by that point. So if you want to see the deep dive into those, you'll see them in that video. Um, but he continues to do some of the craziest laser patterns, anodizations, and blade shapes of anybody in the whole space, which is super cool. And he's just a great guy too. Just really cares about the hobby. He's been in it for a long time. Uh, and just has very much made Balisong stuff just kind of a part of his personality, but in like a positive kind of way. He knows that it's kind of a weird thing, but he's also kind of a weird guy, as we are too. We're just kind of weird. He's also kind of weird, but in like a fun, positive way. So I really like what he's adding to the community. His stuff is not cheap. Most of it is over $1,000. But his stuff really impresses me. And he was also right next to Cerrone. And
You want
Cerrone
to talk
has
about
some.
not cheap?
Yeah. His one of the things we featured in the video was $4,200 because it was one of three.
Was it the mother of pearl one?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the, and then he also, or no, it wasn't that one. It was a Krisk blade that was like one of
Oh.
3 that he hand ground and all this. It was Damascus steel, uh, tons of stuff, or tons of just crazy knife making. And then, but yeah, that one of them had abalone in the actual blade, and also one of them had abalone, which is, what's the actual definition of abalone? It is a common name for any small to very large marine gastropod mollusk in the family of Haliotidae. It's a type of sea creature.
Nah,
The
that should
shell
just
is
go on a
really pretty.
sandwich.
Yes, yeah. The bologna. Yeah, so he had dried bologna in the blade. No. But no, abalone, it just has a really cool like shine to it. But it was in the pivots of the knife. In the pivots. It was insane. So it was great. I didn't really get to meet him because he's from Italy and he doesn't speak particularly good English, so didn't get to actually have a conversation with him, but Paul helped translate and it was great. But he makes some of the most crazy, like one of one balisongs that have ever existed. One of his things would be wild to own.
Yeah.
But it is certainly pricey. But it's pricey for a reason. He does everything in small batches, and most of it's pretty hand done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was most of the. Oh, in that room, that was most of the people. In that room. In the other room, we had machine
Less than
wise.
usual.
Yeah.
Because BRS wasn't there.
At all. Yeah.
Like zero presence, which was wild. I think there was
Yeah.
another company that wasn't there. Maybe I'm just thinking of how Benchmade wasn't actually selling anything at their booth, which is just really strange to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Machine Wise made a decision that I'm sure a lot of people were confused about, but I personally think is one of the smartest things they could have done.
I agree.
They moved into the main area.
Yep.
And finding them took a little bit. I actually have to go back and check because I swear they were in a different place when I first checked the map, like 2-3 weeks before Blade Show. I swear they were in the left corner, like towards the top. Because Sam and I were looking for Machine Wise, and I went over there because I was like, oh, I remember I looked at this on stream, and we couldn't find them anywhere. But they were actually like above all of like the tables.
Huh.
Machine Wise was there, and they were not with the Balisong people, which I want to explain why I think that's such a good call, because the Sonora is their big ticket item, the thing that they sell the most of, and that's the thing that is going to make them the money. If they confine themselves to Balisong Alley, the knife people won't find them.
Exactly.
But in the opposite direction, if you go into the main room, all of the knife people will be walking past you constantly. And because you're such a big presence in the Balisong community, the Balisong community will migrate over to you and seek you out.
Yep.
So you're not really losing out on like Balisong people not discovering your booth, because anyone who's going to Blade Show for Balisongs already knows about Machine Wise and will go see them.
Yeah.
So I think it was a freaking incredible 5,000 IQ play.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of stuff.
They did.
And I think it all sold, which is insane.
Yeah, they had a great show. I talked to Martine and Lance, who was the main person running their booth. They had a great show, and they sold out of like pretty much everything. And yeah, them moving their booth, I think it was a strong play. Martine, I don't know if they're going to actually do this, but Martine floated the idea for Blade Show 2026 to have 2 booths, one be in the main room to sell their folders and one be in the Balisong area to sell their Balisongs. Who knows if that'll actually come to fruition. But no, like, if you think about it, like what you described earlier of how busy the Balisong area was, the people in the market for an expensive folder knife are generally very different from somebody in search of a Balisong. And when you can imagine, like, the people who are generally into this would be like they could be your dad, like I am to you. So you
Exactly.
know
Yeah.
that, yeah. So I own a Sonora, and so since I'm obviously a father to you, my darling 13-year-old son, me as a 29-year-old man, um, since I'm in the market for something like this, I own this. But a lot of the other people that are into ballad songs generally skew a little younger, and people that are into
Mm.
this generally skew a little older. And when you can imagine, you're walking through Blade Show and you see the Squid Industries booth and large masses of people all with their cases out, all flipping, all at the same time. If you're like, some dad in his mid 50s, you're going to be like, "Oh, ho Melly, I'm going to go this other
You
direction."
can
Got
watch
it.
it happen.
Got it.
If
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
stand on the outskirts of Balisong Alley, I saw many such cases where I even heard some dude like talking to his wife or his kid or something. He was like, "Oh, it's just the Balisong people. Stay away from them." And they turned around and they walked the other way. And it's like, damn, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but there's so many cases of people walking in going, "Oh, this is just the Balisong stuff," turning around and walking away.
Yeah.
So you're losing out on all of those people checking out something like the Sonora. So yeah, I think it was genius that they were over there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that when you have balisong flippers crowding your booth all day, that can be a bit of a struggle when the main thing that is propelling your company forward is the sale of these guys. And they even section it off in a nice way too, because they were on a corner, so they had their balisongs on one side, and then on the other corner they
Yeah.
had the Sonora and the Mojave. They had a really cool update to the Sonora. They had a magnetic inlay version that I thought was super cool. That I'm excited to see where they go with that. They had some exclusive versions of the Mojave that were sweet, including a bushing one, which is cool that they did a bushing Mojave. It makes less sense to me though because it's not a button lock.
Yeah.
Because with a button lock, you can have this motion where you are closing it in that way, where you can just loop like that. You just press the button and you can close it. You can't do that with a frame lock, and the Mojave is a frame lock. You still have to get your finger in there to disengage the lock and then move it. So it is still smoother. Uh, and I guess it would probably be better for durability and in terms of like this in one of the things I filmed for Machine Wise. I literally filled it with actual dirt to try to get it to stop functioning, and that didn't stop it from having like a perfect swing to it, because with a bearing knife you'd get gunk in there and it wouldn't swing as well most likely, but with a bushing knife it just kind of works.
I
So
love
that's
the
great.
Sonora. I love it.
But the Opus V2, what'd
Yeah.
you think? I don't like that face.
I I'm just thinking about how oh, I'm so bad with names. Was it Matt? It was Lance and Matt working the booth, I
Matt,
think.
yes, yeah, Matt.
Yeah. My first interaction, they were great. They did a short, or they did a presentation for the Bally Awards in place of Machine Wise, who couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Um, so my first interaction meeting Matt in person was me flipping an Opus V2, not realizing that it was a product and not a demo, because I don't think they had a demo of the Opus V2 for whatever reason.
Mm.
So my first interaction with him was him looking at me and saying, "Oh, let's not go too crazy on the product there. If you could put that down." And I felt so bad. I was
That
like,
is such
"Oh,
a.
oh,
Oh, well,
that's
I
tough."
can
He,
feel the awkwardness of that moment as somebody very susceptible to those kind of like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do the thing
yeah,
wrong. I'm so sorry, man. That had to be a moment.
and he recognized me shortly after. It was like, and was
Mm.
like, "No, I'm sorry for making you put it down." I'm like, "No, dude, make me respect your product, please, please."
Yeah.
Because they had, I think it was they had one open, and usually my brain is just
Ah.
like, "Oh, the open one laying on the table. That's the one they want people to use." Um, but yeah, I want to partially take back my criticism that it just looks like a Sonora, that it just looks like a Sasori, because I don't think it totally does.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, I don't know. It felt like an Opus in name only, not because it was bad or anything, or not because it didn't look like an Opus, but just because a lot of people described it as combining the Seraph and the Opus.
Yeah.
The Seraph and the Opus flip vastly differently. A lot of people described it as like the perfect middle ground for someone who would like both. And I largely agree with that. And I think that's really cool. But I think it also kind of did lose a little bit of its identity as an Opus. The Opus for me has always been the massively tip weighted, massively end weighted, aka outer weighted balisong, where you have all of the momentum at the very tips of the knife. And that's what really separates it from the Seraph. And I didn't get a ton of that with the Opus V2. Still a great balisong. Probably the most premium feeling thing Machine Wise has ever made so far. Flipped excellently. But I definitely feel like it lost a tiny bit of its Opus personality, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. The way I was initially very skeptical of it, because I was like, it looks great. That doesn't really look like an Opus to me. Once Martine explained the thought process behind it and specifically what Dalen wanted to achieve with it,
Yeah.
it made a lot more sense to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
in the way he described it was the Opus was what Machine Wise thought the pinnacle of what they could make could be as a ballad song. The Opus V2 is now that, but
Yeah.
for where they're at currently, and so that's why it retained the name the Opus, and on
Right.
top of it, it uses the same blade and everything as the original did. They were ultimately very different products, but yeah, it had the air of like a more refined Seraph to a certain degree. Didn't quite sound like I thought it would. I thought it would have a more deep kind of machine wise clack, but it
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have that. Maybe that's because of the speed channel or something. But the
Well, the
Sasori
Machine
has a.
Wise. Sorry.
The Sasori also has a speed channel on it, and that felt very solid to me.
I
So I
mean,
don't know.
the Machine Wise clack is characteristic of how all their old products had like pockets and holes in it. Like there's areas that are specifically hollow, I guess. It's that hollowness that kind of makes that sound. And the V2 very much felt like a slab, like it was dense and it was like fully filled in. Maybe you crack it open and it has the same pockets. I don't know that for sure, but
Yeah,
I think it definitely had more of like a denser, because that's how their Totori and Sasori have felt. They felt like a denser, more compact experience, and I think that might be what contributes to the sound not being as crazy.
yeah,
I don't
yeah. I don't
know.
know. I
Ask
still
them.
liked it. I liked.
Yeah, it
I
still
didn't.
sounded and flipped great.
Yeah, there wasn't. Unfortunately, most of the stuff that was at the show, I didn't get to spend like a ton of time with. But the time that I did spend with it, I thought that it felt very premium and felt like a nice addition to their current line. And yeah, very
Yeah,
different than a Sasori. When we had talked about it originally, it's like that just looks like a longer handle Sasori. Boy, howdy, is it very different than the Sasori.
yeah,
So I'm. It was an interesting, like Martine has had a big role in their recent products and stuff. Martine was like, I actually did absolutely nothing
yeah.
with the
Which I was
Opus V2.
surprised to
That
hear
is
that.
all Dalen. Like
I was
all
very
Dalen
surprised
through
to
and
hear
through.
that.
Yeah.
Because I think, as far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Martine is kind of like the brainchild of the more Sasori focused products that they've had lately.
Yeah.
So hearing that Dalen was really the one that pushed for like the no hole pattern on the Opus V2 was surprising,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not unwelcome. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. The reception it got seemed to be pretty positive too. I think they sold pretty much all of them as well.
I think they sold all but maybe one.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if that will end up being a review that Will and I will end up doing it. That's going to be with where Will and I are currently at with the way we're producing things. I'm kind of putting everything kind of in his boat of what he wants to review and what he wants to do. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's something that he's that interested in reviewing, but it's something I would be curious to make my own video about. in some way, even if it's just talking about how it's made or just talking with Martine about it. I did pitch to him being a guest on the Blade Bias podcast, and he was like, hook me up. Yeah, let's do it. So that could be a really fun thing if we got to do that.
And that actually triggers my last acquisition.
I was about to ask. I was so happy that I got to witness you. You explain. Don't let me forget to share the term that I used in terms of what you're about to share. But there's a term
share it because I think it.
Okay, I just call it getting martined. Me owning this is me getting martined.
So
and my scrap serif that I have too. That's me getting martined, and I'll explain what that means when you share your side of the story.
Well, I'm kind of going to explain it as a part of my story.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
So I should totally clarify. This is not mine. I've actually had way too many people reach out to me on like Instagram and say, "Would you sell that?" I'm like, "It's not mine to sell. Even if I wanted to, I can't."
Yeah.
The plan is, I think he said to give it back to him at the next Blade show or something like that. I'll probably end up sending it back to him later this year. But this is a prototype of the live blade for the Prisma Pro. It is not sharp, thankfully. It means I'm going to flip it more. But basically, we went over to their booth right before the show was about to wrap up, maybe like half an hour before. And we got talking about the new stuff versus the old stuff or something like that. And at one point, I had snuck in the question because they had this out. This was the demo that they have. If you visited the MachineWise booth, they had a bunch of their old products as demos that you could try. There was like a Sasori, there was a Totori, a TI Sasori, stuff like that. And this was one of them. And flipping them made me really interested in picking one up eventually. So I wanted to know how many existed so I could figure out my chances of acquiring one on the secondhand market. So I go, "Hey, Martine, how many of these exist?" And he goes, "Yeah, maybe like 30. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, great. I'm never going to get one of these." And he goes, "Wait, do you actually not have one of those?" And I was flipping it at the time. And I was like, no, I never got around to purchasing one. Because at the time, I didn't really totally vibe with the look, I think is what the deal was.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, you hold on to that then." And then he turns away and starts a conversation with someone else.
Yes. Yeah.
Just leaving me sitting there going,
I was there.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I was there for that whole thing. And it was literally like, I'll try to stay centered so I can properly do it. But so this is the table that Martine was facing. Me looking at the cameras where you were. It was just as quick as, yeah, hold on to that for me.
Yeah.
And then he looked away.
Yep.
And that's what I mean by being Martined. He's an extremely generous, just great person through and through. But he gets satisfaction out of like giving people an experience like that. And it was just so smooth the way that he just, hold on to that for me. And then looked away. And you were like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Yeah, just give it to me like, yeah, next Blade show."
Yeah, he was like, "You just return it to me next Blade show." So this is, I believe he said it was one of the first prototypes of the blade itself, but it's also special because they did something special to the handles that they don't typically do, or they never ended up typically doing to the Prisma Pro, where it feels a lot softer. The Prisma Pro, my one possible complaint with it was that it felt a little sharp, a little angular, a little flat, I guess. And this, like, fixes it right up. I can't remember. I need to message him for clarification on it. He said something along the lines of, "This is the only Prisma Pro that we like tumbled before we anodized it," or something to that effect, to make it a little bit softer on the hands. But I love this thing, and I am going to have to look into buying one because
there's
honestly,
a chance he never asked for that back.
No, I'm giving this back to him.
There's a chance he won't let you.
Well,
and I say that because the intent
find
was
his way into his mailbox.
The intent was fully for me to buy this, and then he just Martined me. It was just because I'd asked like, "Oh yeah, so you said to pay X price?" He was like, "Nah, you just keep it." I'm like, I can pay for it. Yeah, no, don't worry about it. And then he started to walk away. So it's like I didn't have a say in if I was going to pay for it or not. And it would almost be insulting, I think, maybe to him if he let me pay for it. So there's a chance he never asked for it back, and it's just like, and we could be insulted if you wanted to give it back. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying there's a
No,
chance.
I'm not thinking of it that way, but I am in love with this thing. It makes me a little sad that if I do buy one, which I probably will, because this has been the squid trainer is my most flip thing, but this is absolutely my favorite thing that I did get at the show.
I loved it. I thought
It
flipped
flips
awesome.
so good. It's going to be in the coming months my most flip trainer, probably. Trainer.
My hard.
But yeah, it does make me a little bit sad to know that I won't have these handles if I do buy one for myself, because the handles are
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is if you do buy
so
one,
nice.
yeah, if you do buy one, they probably won't have those handles. But that is honestly, if it makes sense for them, if they ever bring back the Prisma Pro, I would tell them like, oh my god, do that, because
Yeah,
those
I
felt
will
so
pay
much
more.
better. Yeah,
Please raise
yeah,
the
like
price
make it
for
an
it. It feels
option.
so
Yeah,
much better.
yeah, yeah. So that was a fun little treat to get to to witness. Um, and then there were a couple other Balisong companies there. Uh, I know like Flytanium. I never really got to spend any major time at
I
Flytanium.
didn't even see their booth.
Yeah, the only newer thing they had was the Zenith V2.
Yes.
And that was I tried somebody's like it was good for because it's like $60. I think it was perfectly suitable for $60, but it was definitely
Mm-hmm.
made in China $60 trainer. But it'd be a very good starting point for anybody that would want to get one or a good beater, that kind of thing. But I think that's pretty much everybody that was officially selling Balisongs at the show. There were a couple of small random companies that had them.
Yeah.
I know Civivi, who's normally just a pocket knife company, they had a prototype. I never got to
Mm-hmm.
try one. I went over to their booth a couple times. They didn't have it out, but apparently they had it out at random times. And there was another company that they had like a very specific type of titanium that was really unique that a couple people bought stuff from, and they had never really made a Balisong before. There was another company that had one that had a really interesting latching mechanism that Will and I made a YouTube short about that we just found randomly, and the whole thing like vibrated as you flipped it, not just the blade.
Oh.
The handles and the blade vibrated like really intensely as you flipped it. So that was interesting. But honestly, to round out talking about products, the thing that we became the most entranced by, and most of the Balisong people became the most entranced by, was this. This is the Rivery Manufacturing Zero. And it is unique in that it is a manual OTF that is not held together in almost any way by screws. And you can
Yeah, this
deploy
thing
it
is
like that
wild.
manually. And then whenever you pull this down, it clicks back. And let me give you a sound. Like, it is so fidgety. You can also just fidget with it like this and just make noises with it. And this thing just rocks, man.
I love this thing. It
Yeah.
is in my pocket everywhere I go. I find myself reaching into my pocket to just like flick it a little bit.
Yeah.
It is way too fun. Also,
Yeah.
oil yours. Mine felt so much better after I put oil
Oh,
in
yeah?
it.
Here, let me. Where do you oil it?
So here's the crazy thing about this. If I
Yeah, so
literally
show it
just
off.
do that,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
there we
so
go.
you can take it apart without tools. Yeah, so you hold
Yeah.
the blade, then you push or you pull down, then you push up, and the whole thing just slides out with
It's
it.
just a
I kept mine
utility
down.
blade that you can replace and flip around. It's
Yep.
freaking sick. So I oiled. I put a little line on the blade itself. I put a little line under the blade, and then I also did the track where the pin goes.
Mm.
Basically anywhere that looked like it was scuffing the anodization, I just like put a little oil on there,
Okay.
and it made it feel a lot more smooth.
Yeah, here we'll give that a whirl. But yeah, so then you can just take it and you can just slide this. Oh,
Other way.
there we go. You can just slide this puppy. Oh, go.
Push the pin. The pin.
There we
You gotta
go.
push the pin in.
Oh, that's right. Oh my god.
No, you know the little
There we
pin
go.
in
Got
there.
it.
There
Got
you
it.
go.
Yeah, so then it just goes
I
back
had
together.
I had quite the adventure taking
You are
mine
very
apart,
experienced with that now. Oh,
I
that
have a
does
good
feel.
understanding of what the issues that are happening are.
Oh, that does feel way better. That feels way more
Oh, it'll feel
glossy.
better the more that you let it kind of sit.
I also put nice oil from Kanto Group on it, so it's got a
Oh, it's gonna
smell
smell
to it
good.
now. Yeah, but no, these things were just. It was a couple of the Balisong people found their booth. They're a new company. They make everything in America. They from Pennsylvania, and various different Balisong people just kept coming back with these to the point that the company gave those specific people free units just as like a
Because of how
thank
many
you
like
because
Balisong people they sent over.
yeah, and I've spoken with them now and they were like Balisong people were not on our radar at all in any way. And when everybody kept showing up and saying that they're into Balisongs and they like this kind of stuff, we were blown away. But yeah,
It,
it's just
it's
it's a fascinating feat of design and engineering. The fact that they are able to have this whole thing exist without screws and like it's using magnets, it's using a spring, and it's just really,
I
really
s-
well made.
I so badly want to do like a full main channel video just breaking down the fucking awesome engineering inside of this thing,
No,
because
I do
I have
too.
spent half of my time with this thing, not just like flicking it back and forth, but like looking at it and studying it and trying to figure out how the hell it works.
Yeah,
It's the coolest thing ever.
yeah,
Even the latch is so cool. There's a little spring under it, and it's a little wooden, or it's a little metal pallet, or a little metal pellet. I'm having an episode, I think. Holy cow.
it's okay. You're
Um
you're you're a young 13-year-old boy. Your brain will develop
True.
in due time. Yeah,
It's a little pellet, and it as soon as it goes up, there's a little indent, so it'll spring out, and then the cap has like a little thing that'll just kind of push that spring back in, and as soon as it does, it slides right back. It's so cool.
yeah,
It's so cool. I still don't fully understand how they've done the mechanism for taking it apart.
yeah,
Like I understand on kind of a basic level what's going on, but I don't understand what's activating it.
yeah,
So that's kind of my big mystery to figure out. But like I love this thing. This
yeah.
thing's so
It's
sick.
so cool. And I know you had trouble with like the whole mechanism like falling out, or like just being difficult. I know they have a new version that they have a Kickstarter for right now. I guess they've refined that so that it can't come out nearly as easily, but the
Yeah,
blade is still easy to
because
remove.
the problem is the blade is magneted in there. So if you try and remove it the wrong way, this whole thing will come out. The spring will undo itself, and you have to like slide it on there, take the lock out, pull it so that the spring then catches on another piece, and then put the lock. I think I'm okay at it now because I've done it a few times, but for your first time, yeah. I actually, when I bought this thing, a Balisong person had come over and he was like, "I have to give this back to you. I don't know how to put it back together."
Yeah.
And they just like and they put it back together. So
Okay.
it's just such a fascinating little thing. I love it.
Yeah, well, and it's so cool. Like, so the other thing I picked up, I wanted to get a gravity knife. Oh wow, there we go. I wanted to get a gravity knife, so I got the Riot or Reet Exo U. I think is what this is called. It's either the U or the M. But this thing is pretty cool. I actually got the cheaper. This is one of their cheaper ones. I think I paid like $80 for this. I got this one because the way more expensive one that everybody was recommending to me is like the top tier gravity knife felt like ass. Deploying it was super scratchy. The lock like took the force, like imagine you wanted to, like you were trying to scrape some gunk off of a countertop with your fingernail. Like it took that amount of force to actuate, and it just, maybe that was just their demo units that felt bad, but it felt really bad. But this felt great, and so I now own a gravity knife. They're fun to fidget with. They're fun to figure out like the different ways that you can like deploy them and stuff like that, and they're fun. But this still looks like a knife, obviously. That's what I appreciate about this, is like it's just a little rectangle, a completely unassuming little rectangle. And that wouldn't stop you from like don't take this into like a concert or something where you're gonna get have to, your stuff gets scanned or you have to show people stuff, like, because like don't carry it in a place where you shouldn't. But I just love that it just is, otherwise you just never know it's a knife. Something like this, you definitely know to some degree, because you can literally see the blade in certain circumstances that it's a knife. But this thing is just so neat, and it's so much fun to mess with. And their newer version, it's a little bit bigger. The mechanism is reworked a little bit, but it still just uses a standard, like pretty much any utility blade.
And they have like a pocket clip that like is flush.
Yeah.
Until you like pop it out when you put it in your pocket. Cool stuff. Cool companies doing really freaking cool stuff.
Yeah,
that's all.
Genuinely very impressive engineering and machining that they are able like to do. So yeah, like out of everything we got, like the battle songs are great, they're really cool and interesting, but this like just entranced so many people, including us. Like you and I, outside of the show, we just spent so long just deploying it over and over and over and over again. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything I think we picked up, and all the battle songs that we tried way more than what we talked about here, but that was mostly just at the pit, where we got to try a ton of different people's knives, of which there was a lot of cool stuff that I got to see that people just had, that were either like one of one things or custom things they had made, or just cool anodizations they had done. So the pit is always a top tier part of Blade Show. And speaking of the pit, the night of Friday, that is where Acid Works and a little team of people put together an impromptu balisong competition called the Acid Bowl.
Went way better than I ever imagined.
Yeah. And it's called the Acid Bowl because acid works, and bowl, like the Super Bowl. And it was so much fun. You and I, like, I was your, we were each other's adventure buddies. So basically anywhere I was driving, you were also with me. And Will was hosting a little get together at his place that night. And he had to leave in the middle of the Acid Bowl. You and I ended up just not going to his house.
Yeah.
Because we just really enjoyed the Acid Bowl. So Bally Comp, which took place on Saturday, that and most balisong competitions, for those that don't know, is generally the flipper gets about 10 seconds to flip. They do a 10-second set. The other person flips for 10 seconds. Judges vote on who won. In the finals, I think they get 20 seconds to flip. The Acid Bowl, or also Bally Comp, it's brackets, where you move your way through the bracket and you go from there. The Acid Bowl, the way they did it was, I believe it was 30-second rounds. And if you won against the other person, you would stay there and compete against the next person. King of the Hill. Yeah, it was King of the Hill style. And each person having 30 seconds to flip was honestly awesome, because you really got to see how good people could really keep up a dynamic combo, or just keep their flipping dynamic and interesting. Because 10 seconds, like when Ballycomp happened the next day, it felt like a lightning flash for
It
each
did.
round compared to the Acid Bowl. Uh, and that just made it a lot of fun. And it wasn't just we have the spectators sitting in this area, then we have people on a stage. It was a giant circle. Everybody just formed a big circle, and they had 4 different judges. Or no, I'm sorry, it was technically 3 judges, but 2 people were kind of a combined judge, which was interesting. But it was Assassin Flown, Julian or JK Design, and then Joseph Hansen. They were kind of a combined duo. And then Guy, who always does the emceeing and like hosting for BallyComp.
Wasn't Joff also like a judge for a
Oh,
little
Joff
bit?
was. Yeah, yeah. There was something going on there. Maybe it was 4 judges, but they had a lot of judges. Guy is an awesome person. He does oh my gosh, he does not deserve this. I cannot remember off the top of my head. He makes ballad songs and they're really cool. I cannot think of the name of them off the
WB
top of my head.
Concept?
WB Concepts. Yes, he's WB Concepts. Thank you. But he was an awesome judge. I wish he could judge BallyComp because he's hosted it like so many times. But he was locked in, like every single person. Like he just gave his full focus and full attention. But it was just really positive overall. Like everybody had a ton of fun with it.
Yeah.
The most hilarious thing that happened, and I do have footage of this. Maybe it'll appear in some form or another down the line. But Masked Flipper, if you recall this event, Masked Flipper, that's their Instagram at masked_flipper, flips with a carrot plastic balisong. It's one of the ones that Will and I unboxed from Amazon. He does that with a razor blade taped to it. And in the middle of his set, dropped it, and it shattered. So naturally, or so not shattered, but it broke. A handle broke off. So what do you do in that scenario? You're done flipping, right? No, no, no. You open your little balisong pouch and you pull out a second one. And you keep
And
flipping.
the whole crowd lost their
We
minds.
lost our minds. And I was filming it. I watched the clip today because I sent it to Mass Flipper. And I was just like, I lost my mind. And you had the great line of switching to your pistol is faster than reloading. Oh my God. Because yeah, it broke and just pulled out a second one and kept flipping. And yeah, the whole crowd just lost their minds. And even the judges were like, oh my God. Mass Flipper did not win that round. It was against Banks,
Yeah.
of all people. But it was amazing. It was just super positive. I'm so glad that we stayed for it.
So am I.
Because we got to see frickin' Bryson, who ended up winning BallyComp. Bryson went for so many rounds. Banks went for so many rounds. The person that won was Gibby, I think, right?
No, it was.
Or was it Banks?
Someone won who couldn't accept the sponsorship, who then gave it to Gibby. So I think it was.
I think it was
Banks.
Banks. Yeah, because Banks is Squid. Is part
Yeah,
of the
because I
Squid
remember saying
squad.
it's
Yeah.
the year of Banks. Yeah, so Banks
Yeah.
won. He can't take the sponsorship because he's already sponsored by Squid.
Yeah, and gave
So
it to
he like bestowed it upon Gibby, but Gibby went off. Gibby was like crushing it out there. I think he had the longest streak
Yeah.
because I think that's what decided who was in the finals was the people who defeated the most amount of people.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting way to go about it, but I can't really think of any better way to do it. So fair play.
Yeah, they'll probably refine it in different ways, but with it being an impromptu thing that they're doing completely for
It went
free,
so much better than I thought it would. Because I saw the announcement that they were going to do something at the pit, and I was like, just totally transparently, I was like, this is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
This is going to suck. And it didn't suck.
It was not. It was awesome. yeah, they it was a great time. Like and it went late too. Like I think we were there till like 11:30 or something like that, but it was
Yeah,
totally worth it. I look forward to the next one. Uh and yeah, it was just great time. And Bryson, who won, he said that I asked him, so would you do Bally Comp, or do you prefer Bally Comp or Acid Bowl? He said he still prefers Bally Comp as a competition, but that the Acid Bowl was way more fun. Like
oh,
way more
definitely,
fun.
yeah,
Because you get to just be out there with your group of people, everybody being in a circle, like, and more properly able to react to things. Like it just gave it a higher energy than what it
mm-hmm.
would normally have. I had a blast getting to film different people when we were there too, and yeah, it was just it was great. And I would love more competitions like that where the flippers really get to show what they're capable of in just a longer time frame. Uh,
Definitely.
and so compared to Bally Comp, uh, Bally Comp was fun. I thought it was a good competition. A few upsets. What was your
A
biggest
lot of
upset
upsets.
of
I think.
Bally
I think
Comp?
most of the contest was, and the interesting thing was during the competition, I was like, oh, people are gonna be because people are usually mad about some judging decision that happens. I didn't hear any complaints really.
Yeah, I didn't
Like
either.
I think I had talked to Pyro and he said it's the best the judging's been so far, which was wild to me because
Pyro has very
pretty
strong
much
opinions on the judging.
pretty much every well that but also because pretty much every like favorite to win had gotten knocked out. Banks got knocked out, Maddie got knocked out,
I was blown away when
Gibby
Banks got knocked out.
same, Gibby got knocked out, Pyro got knocked out, Seiji got knocked out. Like it was people like these top tier flippers who you're thinking okay that person's gonna win are just dropping like flies.
Yeah,
It was very very wild to me.
yeah. I was so the person that won was Bryson. I don't remember. Do you remember who Bryson went up against in the final?
It was shoot, I don't.
Sorry, other person that
I know their
got the
name
second place. I could look at
or
my
I
in
don't
my
know their
footage.
name. I know what they look like. It was like CH something.
Okay, yeah.
It was like
Um, here I'll
Or
find it. I'll
Skell. Yeah.
I'll look.
Um
Or I'm looking now at my
Run it.
footage. But so Bryson, I was super stoked to see Bryson win, which is partially for a personal reason, in that Bryson competed in the West Coast flipping competition. And okay, the second place person was the person that won last year, I believe.
Oh,
I'm looking
was it?
at my footage now. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it was. It was. Um, yeah. There's the person that won last year.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
you're right. Who was I thinking? I was thinking of someone
Maybe
else.
you're
I
thinking of the
was
third
thinking of
place
someone.
person.
No, I was thinking of someone that Bryson went up against beforehand. Or maybe it
Mm,
was in the acid bowl or never mind. I don't know who I'm thinking
it
of.
all kind of blurs together at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm personally happy for Bryson in that when I was judging West Coast flipping competition, when I watched the competition back and had the proper time to absorb each person's set, I I had voted against Bryson in the round that Bryson lost. So I technically, on paper, am maybe the reason that he lost that particular round. And whenever I watched it back and had the proper amount of time to absorb it and not like 5 seconds to process it, like it is when you're it's actually happening. Bryson had so much of a better set than the other person did. Like whenever I got to watch it back, so I felt personally a little responsible there. So I was stoked that he won it because he's only been flipping for like a few years, and
He's been
he
flipping
just
the same amount that I
crushed
have,
it.
I think.
Yeah, and he crushed it. Like he
Yeah.
earned his spot there. Like he had to go against some. good flippers to
His
get to
final
where he
set
did.
was so good.
Yeah,
The
like
what
he
ended up being the winning set was,
really
I
good.
think, perfect in as many ways as it could have been, because I think I was standing by a few flippers who popped off when he hit it.
I'm
Um,
actually I'm watching it back right now, and I remember. Oh, you can hear me. Oh you can hear me in the clip because I wanted him to win so much, and I was just saying to myself, come on,
oh,
Bryson,
that's
you
what
can
I'm
do it.
thinking of. I was standing next
Come
to
on, Bryson, you
you.
can do it. You can do it. You can do it. So you can hear me say it in the clip that I recorded. But he had just a perfectly clean set, like just
Yeah.
like amazing work. And everybody gave him a big round of applause. So it was cool to see him ascend, especially after the Acid Bowl as well, because he had to work hard in the Acid Bowl. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. Uh, there was a specific inception of an event or of a thing that we ended up talking quite a bit about that happened at Ballycomp. Do you want me to explain that thing, or do you want to leave the viewers in the dark?
Ooh, do I? I'm
You
looking
are
at
the
you.
producer
I'm looking at
ultimately of this
you for this one.
podcast. You're looking at me. You want me to decide?
No, I'm
Uh,
looking at the
the
viewer. Do I
oh,
want to help you or hurt you? We'll be nice. We'll be nice.
the
We'll explain
ultimate
it.
question as a content creator: do I want to hurt
We will
you?
be nice.
I can give the
Um,
short version, but yeah, here, yeah, no, take it away.
no. So this was incepted. The whole 13-year-old son that we've been hammering on this whole podcast
Yep.
was incepted when Brandon was talking to a fan. And I think it was two dudes. Does that ring a
Yeah.
bell?
Yes. Yeah.
Wanted a picture,
Yep.
and they were looking around for someone to take the picture. And Brandon looked at me and said, "Hey, Ethan, come take this picture for us." So I took the picture, whatever. That person went onto my Discord later that night, took a picture of me and Brandon sitting next to each other from behind while we were like filming Ballycomp or something like that, and said, "I know Brandon had a wife, but I didn't know he had a kid." And the kid
And
took
posted
a
the picture.
picture of me and him. Brandon's kid took a picture of me and him together, which was kind of cool.
Uh
And
huh.
my Discord people in my Discord were like, "Bro, that's Ethan." He was like, "What? He looks like a 13-year-old child." So canonically, I am Brandon's 13-year-old son, which
Yeah.
brings up a lot
Yeah.
of questions. But
Frankly, I would be stoked for you to be my son. You're a great
that'd be pretty
guy. If
cool.
you were my son, I'd be so happy as a father.
I
You are
think our
not my
relationship
son.
would be a lot more strained though,
Oh,
because that's
probably.
generally how it goes with parents. Um,
We'd have more
but that
baggage from the
became
past.
a
Yeah.
massive inside joke the rest of the weekend.
Yes. Yeah. It was
So
just like, and I've talked to the guy now. Like he's just like, I don't know how I thought that. Like I don't know why I didn't recognize Ethan, but just the sequence of events of him thinking, I'm married, I'm not married, and then also that I have a son, that I'm old enough to have a 13-year-old son, and then was so curious about it that he posted about it on your Discord. And it was just too funny. Like, and I'm really not making
I
fun of the person that did it. It's
no,
just
not at all.
so funny that, and because also them posting it in your Discord server, because he also went on to say, I watch Blade Bias all the time. So
Yeah.
that means he's
I
never watched the podcast, or he has watched the podcast and just didn't recognize you.
I
You
had
do
a
often
few
wear a hat
people.
in the podcast, and you weren't wearing a hat
True.
in that moment.
I
But
had a bunch of people come up to me, like more than one, and say, "I'm glad you face revealed in the Seraph video because I recognized you from that." And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, that's my face reveal to people. Because, like, I guess it's one of the first times that people have seen my face on the Blade Bias channel. But
yeah.
my face reveal was the first thing I posted ever, dog. Like,
Yeah, that sequence of events was just
I think
too
even
funny.
the even funnier part was afterwards. He said, "If I knew that was him, I would have asked him to get in the picture."
Yeah.
So he just forever has a picture where he knows that another YouTuber that he enjoys watching was behind the camera, which
Yeah.
is sad, but also just so funny to me. I'm sorry if you're out there, but it is so funny to me.
Yeah. Oh, it's just it just tickles me every time. Yeah, so now then throughout the rest of the weekend, people were making jokes about you being my son. I was making jokes about you being my son. You were making jokes. Like at one point you were just like, "Sup, Padre?" It was so funny, especially because we were staying together too. So like
Mm,
historically, we'd have like our little moments where you and I got to interact that were fairly substantial compared to other people, but it wasn't. We didn't have like the car rides to and from the show and car rides to this
right.
place and that place together. And so that just
We
the
did
fact that I
once.
was driving you to the show every day did aid in
Yeah.
it feeling like a father son relationship. But yeah, so that was just so funny. So funny. Um,
Staying at your place was so just it was awesome. It was really nice. And I had kind of a similar experience with the B&B last year that we all
mhm.
did.
Yeah.
Which was me, Dasuko, Tay Flipper, Ty, and Ty's girlfriend. But like actually getting to stay with someone who I don't typically do. Ty and I may live far apart from each other, but we have slept at each other's houses, and that experience is not new to us.
Yeah.
So having that experience of like staying up late until 2 a.m., sitting on the couch flipping, talking about whatever the hell we were talking about was very refreshing. Not, I shouldn't say refreshing because I still do love hanging out with Ty. Um, but like it was just nice, you know?
Yeah.
It was nice to connect. I'm not going to finish that sentence because it sounds weird. It was nice to. No, they all sound weird. It was
I
nice to physically be in the pre. I'm not.
It was father
I've
son
dug
bonding that
myself in
we
a
got to
hole I
have.
can't dig out.
No, I think in terms of my experience with you, I felt like you and I got to much more authentically experience who we are as people.
Yes.
Like that was something like even we were going between something and I was a little stressed out and you were with me the whole time. And I think at one point I said to you was like, you are currently experiencing my recharge time where I just kind of revert to just a very base, kind of like monotone, kind of
Yeah.
mildly frustrated and a little worn out self. You're experiencing that, but like we got to do that together and just have those late night things where the other joke that I've been making, I'll clue people in on now because it does sound mildly concerning now that I think about it. It was like 1 a.m. It was Thursday. You and I were hanging out in my office, and you were showing me one of your Transformers, and we were both very tired. Or you were less tired. I was more tired. You show me one of the Transformers, and that Transformers was called a Scrapper, or it's called Scrapper. Yeah, there he is.
This is Scrapper.
Yeah, Scrapper is sick. It's like actually, I got to kind of see some of the cool design of Transformers, like with the one that you had. So they are genuinely neat. And just in my tiredness, you said something about it being Scrapper, and I just went Scrapper. I hard, but I didn't intend to stop there. I didn't intend to stop with I hard. I was trying to think of where that was going, and so it just ended at I hard. And so now then, and that
Which
is an
I thought was
extension of the
very
joke.
funny.
I hardly know her. So Scrapper, I hardly know her. But mine was Scrapper, I hard. And it was just beautiful. And so that anything that ended in an ER the whole rest of the weekend, we would just Flipper,
Which
I hard.
you guys have a whiteboard in your kitchen which a lot of people like will write messages on. So
Yeah,
I finally got to contribute to that and I just wrote Blade Show, I
I
hard.
hard. Yeah, yeah. Oh, and then the other meme that was active for me throughout the show was guy or a person named Andrew, who I met at Blade Show Texas, wonderful person. The very first time they saw me at the show, I never
Oh,
interacted with them before, never. And I was just looking around looking for somebody else, and I locked eyes with Andrew, and they just went, looked me dead in the eye, and just went, Brandon Blade Show. And it brought me to my knees in laughter because it was just so out of nowhere. I never talked to Andrew before. It was just so funny. And I told people at this Blade Show that it was mostly Dasuko and Dasuko's partner, and then Will and Prism, every time they saw me. And not like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. It was like every time they looked at me would go,
every time.
Brandon Blade Show. And it was so funny every time it happened.
This is the one I didn't get in on because I didn't know what the fuck was going on for half of the weekend.
Yeah.
I would just hear this happening and I'm like, I don't know the context. I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to let them do their thing. I'm sure it's funny.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but no, it was probably 50 to 60 individual times someone looked at me.
Oh, definitely.
And the whole, and sometimes even didn't even say Brandon Blade Show. They just went, buh, 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 buh. It was perfect. And then the other thing that we have to report in on is that we had the breadening in 2024 where the votes were casted. The Crackerakin was concluded to be white bread.
Asterisk.
That's still up for debate. I'll get you one day. Or I've kind of accepted that I lost because that's easier for my mental health. But so we didn't plan this, but so on Saturday night, Adriana and I had a large party at our condo. Adriana put a ton of work into all the food and all the drinks, homemade a bunch of stuff, focaccia bread, Brazilian cheese bites, bacon wrapped dates. I made a couple different kinds of sliders.
It was all so
whole
good.
big thing. It was great. We had Martine was there, Matt from Pancetta, Zippy, Armin, a ton of our different Battle Song friends, Will and Prism, you, and it was an awesome time. And back in September of last year, I experienced a game called Clask. I highly recommend you Google it. It is basically foosball. What I describe it as is foosball meets air hockey, but with magnets. That's how I describe it to people that don't really know it. But it's a game where you hit a little ball back and forth with a piece that you control from under the table with a magnet. And there's magnets on the board. If those magnets attach to you, you could lose the point. But you're trying to get that orange ball into the other person's circle. And I just fell in love with that game. And I haven't really had anybody to play it with other than Adriana and like Will a couple times when he's come over. And I'm like, I want people to properly experience this game. So we had a Clask tournament. Do I? Oh, I do. I do. I made a bracket for our Clask tournament. And so yeah, on here was Will, Prism, Ethan, David, Zippy, Armin, Martine, Charlie, Matt, or a different Matt, MCK Balisong, Adriana, Sam, who's on the job flips, Dasuko,
flips.
on the job, John. Wow. Oh wow. There, Sam, start a YouTube channel where you're just on the shitter the whole time. On the John flips. On the job. He lights shit on fire for a living. He's great.
He does.
With a drone. It's wild. Yeah, Dasuko, Liz,
Ukraine,
Matt,
get this man right now.
There you go. Yeah.
Snap him up.
Yeah. Matt Potts, who's from Pancetta, Caitlin, who's Sam's girlfriend, me, and then Emmy. Emmy helps with acid work stuff. She's great. And we worked our way through the bracket, and you had gone against Zippy David, and Zippy David, from here on out known as David. David had to leave. David beat you. You lost to David, but since he left pretty early, like shortly after he beat you, we needed somebody to replace him. So you replaced him. And you caused a big upset, which was beating Prism. I honestly was looking forward to facing Prism. I had to go against Emmy, and then I had to go against Caitlyn, which honestly, that was probably, I had a very easy bracket. I didn't intend on having that easy of a bracket.
Do you hear that?
I rigged
Emmy and
it.
Caitlyn.
Well, they had never played it
Calling you guys
before.
easy.
They never
Yeah.
played
I mean,
it. Yeah.
Most people hadn't played it before, to be fair.
Yeah.
So.
I was only one of the only ones that had played it. Me and Adriana. But Adriana lost immediately to Sam. I put her and I on the same side so that maybe we would face in the semifinals. That didn't happen. But it came down to me against Sam, and that was a pretty heated thing. But lo and behold, Ethan versus David, then Ethan versus David, or David versus Prism became Ethan versus Prism, and then it was Ethan versus Charlie. And you
Sorry, man.
You battled through it, and you won. And so, in proper Blade Bias fashion, maybe we'll show some video of this moment. I can send you a little compilation of it, because it went a little quicker than it could have, but it was pretty intense. We had two separate angles of it. We had a whole group of people. Because I set it up in this office. It was like right here where we put the table, or here for the middle thing. It was right over here where we had the table, and we had a Blade Bias versus of class
showdown.
And it got a little wet and wild, as they say. It got a little heated. You threw a few punches. The referees had to come in and restrain me because I was trying to punch back. You'll see all this in the footage, obviously happening. That definitely happened. The CIA showed up, the FBI, the UN, because they determined that there was just too much power in the room of you and I having this epic battle. Yeah. All of Ukraine showed up. With all their military equipment. Putin was on his way, but travel shenanigans.
Which is good. That could have been real bad.
Yeah, thankfully Russia's never done anything bad to the world. But it was you versus me, and I got my revenge.
And you did, which
I succeeded.
Poetically is nice. I gotta be honest, it was so much fun. I was genuinely so sad because I was starting to make the comeback and then I just fucked it up, and it was like, oh, it would have been because I was confident. Having lost to Zippy, my game against Zippy, I thought I was gonna win because I think it went 2-0 and then he came back from 0 to beat me.
Yeah.
But I felt good. I just like that, something about controlling that game kind of just worked for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I have a good chance of winning the whole thing, but you
did make it far.
Embarrassed me.
You did ultimately play the most.
Yes.
Other than me out of the people in that tournament. And you had never played it before.
I am very happy with my performance, but I really just wanted that cinematic comeback.
Yeah.
Which didn't happen, which ultimately, fair play. It was so much fun.
It's such a fascinating game. Like the way that it implements the magnets into it and all the different things you have to consider, but you don't really have to consider that much. It's ultimately hit a ball back and forth. Like you could totally win that way, but just with because the piece you have that you're using to hit the ball with, that's magnetic, and there's things on the playing field that if they attach to you, then you'll lose the point. So like where you need to be and where you can go is always changing. It's a fascinating game. And I'm so glad everybody had a fun time with it. 3 separate people that attended the breadening have now sent me the breadening. Wow. It's not the breadening. I guess the claskening. That's what we're calling it. It's the claskening.
Claskening.
3 people have sent me videos of them playing Clask because they bought it.
I was gonna say I saw it on a few people's stories
Yeah.
that they were playing it already, which is so funny. I'm actually looking at it now. If I had someone to play it with, I would pick it up because it's
We have to do another
genuinely
tournament
such a
next year.
fun little game.
Yeah. And so it's wild that ended up being the focal point of the night, but it's just fun. Yeah, the party was great. I was so happy that so many people had a good time with it because I set up my Nintendo 64 and had Mario Kart on it, like the N64 Mario Kart, so people got to play that. And then I set up. I used to be a blackjack dealer. I did that for 2.5 years at the world's largest casino, believe it or not. And I set up a full blackjack dealing little. Again,
That
in
was
here
super fun.
I had a full felt with it and a table and the proper like dealing shoes, and then made a custom little game for it. Gave away Volp 360, which Charlie ended up winning.
That was so much fun.
Yeah. But I was describing it to somebody else. I did not have, in the grand scheme of my time in the Balisong hobby, I don't think I would have ever had dealing blackjack in my office to the president of Machine Wise on my Blade Show bingo card. But if I had a bingo card with that, it would have been stamped. I would have been totally fine because that happened. And it was pretty fascinating. You played in that. Not everybody played, but blackjack's an interesting.
I'm so happy I did.
Play.
We were just using points. There was no money involved. But
yeah.
Right after that, I was on a hot streak. I went to the casino, blew my entire life savings.
Okay.
And now I'm listing most of my Balisong collection for sale. So.
Oh, that's great.
Everything must go.
Yeah, well, there's so many people that I know in the casino world that have had such bad financial breaks, and I'm just so glad that you get to experience it.
Well, 99%.
Were you missing a important family relative's baseball game that you told the dealer, in this case me, that you desperately needed to go to their final baseball game of the season because you hadn't been to any of the games the whole season, and you didn't go to that game, and instead you lost $4,000? Is that roughly what you did?
Sounds awfully specific. No, that couldn't have been me.
Yeah, no, that would never happen. No.
Wait, I can legally gamble. What the fuck?
Oh, you can. Look at that. Congratulations.
I'm so used to not being allowed in the casino that I know what I'm doing tomorrow. If you know what I mean.
If you go gamble, only actually my main tip from my experience with that, go in with the money that you're okay with losing. So if playing at a blackjack table is worth $50 to you, bring $50. Maybe don't spend $1,000.
No, I just want to play blackjack. I'm gonna break out my Switch, I think, because I have the 51 Worldwide Classics, and I think there's a blackjack game on there. It was just fun. I don't know why. It was just fun. Yeah. I'm never gonna spend money on it. I don't think it's worth losing.
I might do it again next year. Give something else away. Find a different way to rework the game to where it's a little bit more dynamic. I had fun with it.
I actually love the idea of playing for something because you still have the stakes without the loss.
Yeah.
You still have the stakes of having something on the line, but you're not, putting $50 down and then losing $50.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of the emotions that come with losing $50.
Yeah, I tried to give an authentic experience in that I set up my screens on my computer to have casino stuff on them, and then played casino sound effects and had RGB lights going and stuff. I tried to recreate the positive aspects of that. What you didn't get is people getting really mad, the whole place smelling like cigarette smoke, and actually losing money. Because blackjack as a game is pretty fun. It's not fun when you lose money. I don't recommend people gamble to make money. So you will lose. It's designed that way. That's why casinos are crazy.
But 99% of losers quit before they win.
Sure. Person that will lose money.
Win.
Yep.
Think of the picture of the guy in the diamond mine, and he walks away right before he breaks through to the diamonds. that lives in my head every time I get a Balisong clip. Now that's what
Yep.
needs to live in your head when you
Yep.
make your
And
life
you're gonna
savings
pay for
and
the
double it.
CEO of a casino's new yacht with
And you're
that
gonna
thinking.
double your life saving. No,
What
that's
what I would always tell
don't
people at
do
a
that.
casino. Yeah, yeah, no, that's a great goal. What I would tell people is when they would be like, "Oh no, I got a feeling." I would be like, you see this place? This is the largest casino in the world. This place was built off of that feeling." That's what built this place. I promise you. I promise.
It's such a good way of putting it. Oh my god.
Yeah. But anyway, the last thing that we can touch on that was extremely fun was kayak. We
Yes.
finally, after 3 years, I guess, because this was your third Blade show, fourth Blade show,
This is my fourth Blade
fourth.
show,
Yeah.
which is
So
fucked.
yeah, after over 3 Blade shows of attempts, we finally made the kayaking trip happen. You can shoot the hooch here in Georgia on the Chattahoochee River, and we use inflatable kayaks.
Yeah.
And they're awesome, and you get to just hang out. I had always wanted to do it, but we never really had the time to do it or the energy to do it. But Ethan stayed an extra day, specifically
You
to
caught me at
kayak.
the perfect time too, because I was
Yeah.
on the booking page when you told me to stay an extra day for it.
Yeah, that's the silver
Like
lining of. Go ahead.
if you messaged me an hour later, I would have been like, oh, okay, well that's tough shit.
Yeah, that's wild. That is. I messaged you. So originally Martine, and oh, that's something we didn't mention. Dalen was supposed to be at Blade Show. Dalen was not at Blade Show because he wasn't able to make it for a variety of reasons. Hopefully he'll be there next year. But Dalen was not at the show. We miss Dalen very much.
I miss him a lot.
But Dalen and Martine were supposed to come with us, and I messaged you right after we had confirmed with Martine that we were going to be able to do it because I'm like, I really want Ethan to be able to go. So if he can, I'd love to confirm that. And so that's when I messaged you. So it's wild that it was that close. Even if like the time zone difference, like if I was in Georgia, you would have already booked it. Like if I hadn't have had it that conversation at that exact time. But you liked it.
Oh my god, it was excellent. I'm a little scared because there was a lot of talk this Blade show about the Sonora and how it kind of ruins the experience. Because Balisong people's sometimes first interaction with folding knives is the Sonora, and then they go to other tables and they try other folding knives, and it's like, wow, this doesn't feel good at all. So I'm a little nervous that the kayak trip was so good that it has now subsequently ruined any future kayak trip that I may go on, which is ultimately the most amazing problem to have. It's a great problem. Some say the best problem, but the I definitely think future kayak trips will kind of be like a little more flat because of that. Because when I tell you that this kayak trip was a movie, I don't even think that fully describes it. We went from dodging thunderstorms to the most
literally.
beautiful day, like literally squeezing through the middle of what I believe were two thunderstorm cells that split around us, and we could hear thunder on both sides of the river, into just a beautiful day, into sunset in the fog lifting off the river, like just this picturesque, beautiful. And the places that we stopped at, there was a little island, and we skipped rocks, and then someone got hit in the head, and it was a whole thing.
I wonder who hit that person in the head.
I'm sorry to bring it up.
I messaged, it was Sam. I'm sorry. I hit Sam completely on accident. I did message him about it. He's fine. He's good. He was good in the moment. He's good now. But that sucked. That could have been way worse. But yes, that did happen. That was the one negative thing that happened on that trip. for me.
But
he's fine.
yeah, that was a freaking awesome trip.
I'm so glad you had a
And it
good
wasn't as
time.
hard as I thought it would be. I was very nervous. I tried not to show it kayaking because when I think of kayaking, I think of this little boat that will tip if you so much as move too far to the left.
Yeah.
And then we were going through rapids, and I was kind of scared every single time a rapid would come up because I was like, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. I think it went okay. I got
You
stuck
did great.
twice, but
No,
you know,
I got stuck, or Adriana and I got stuck way worse than you ever got stuck. So you did a great job. You didn't know, um, but at one point we were way ahead of you. I think it was right after we left the bamboo forest. We were way ahead of you. Um, I and you were like in the very back of like the line of kayaks that we had. Uh, I stopped us and turned us around because I'm like, I want to watch Ethan go through the rapids. And I watched you. I'm like, oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's my real 13-year-old son. Yeah, boy. Uh,
it it's very trippy, the whole like back paddling on the side that you want to turn into, because that there were a few times where I started to do that and I was like, nope, that's wrong. That's not how physics work. And I would go to the other side and then I'd be like, wait, no, that is actually how physics work, and have to. But yeah, it was very, very fun. The kayak was very stable. I had the pleasure of being alone,
yeah,
which
yeah.
some people would consider not a pleasure. I personally do.
It is much easier to kayak by yourself in an
Yeah.
inflatable kayak. Yeah. Yet to even my own dismay, uh, I don't know that we're gonna get a better day than what we got. That was
No,
I
that
have done that trip probably 25 to 30 times now. That was far and away overall the best weather and the most interesting. Sitting in a kayak with little bits of sprinkling around you and hearing thunder on both sides of you and looking at like
don't
having
do
seen
that.
like don't do that. But
Like
we were
don't
calculated with it. It sounds really stupid. You're a weather nerd. You like that stuff. I also
yeah.
like that stuff. We looked at all the forecasts. We looked at you were looking at like the actual map of like where the storms were going to be. We made the calculated decision of like, I think we are going to be okay, and it is not actually going to be dangerous for us to be out there.
So obviously don't do that. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of, being there in the moment. It was a little scary. We were all kind of like looking at each other like, are we gonna be good?
Yeah, I
Will
was
was
very
very
concerned.
confident.
He was
Yeah.
suspiciously confident. He's usually suspiciously confident in that way. I at one point was extremely nervous. I was like, "Oh
So
my
was
god,
I.
we are fucked."
Yeah,
But
because we're
then,
in an open river holding metal things in a thunderstorm. It's almost textbook what you're not supposed to do.
yeah, but we had looked at everything and made the conclusion that we were probably going to be fine and that it was going to skirt
I
around us and we would be good.
I will be
And
honest with you, knowing what I know now, I would not have made the decision to go in, like if
no,
I had been able to see how close it was.
yeah,
But and we got lucky because there was no cloud to ground lightning as far as we could see,
no,
so it was just like
yeah,
in the clouds.
yeah. So, pro tip:
Um,
don't do that.
yeah, pro tip,
uh,
don't do that. But looking, it's one of those experiences where in the moment it was nerve wracking, but looking back on it, it was so sick.
So cool.
It
It
was
was
so
so
awesome.
cool because like we had a
Having the
lot of cloud
knowledge that we're
cover.
okay,
Yeah,
it was so sick.
and we were in fact completely fine, and there was really like objectively no risk of danger in that moment. There were no lightning
Well,
strikes.
there's maybe
There's
a
a little bit,
little,
but
but
like a
yeah.
tiny bit, but not like we're talking less than 0.1% chance of anything going wrong. Um, so knowing what we know now, it was awesome. And that transition from very cloudy and dark clouds, or like it being very cloudy with very dark clouds and like thunder, and experiencing that transition actively on the river as we went from moving from general sunlight and a bit of cloudiness going floating into like the storm was coming north, we were floating south. And watching it come toward us and then experiencing it going away and seeing like, oh my god, the sun's up ahead. We're going towards the sun, everybody. Like that relief was great. And then yeah, the whole rest of the day was just beautiful. And then yeah, we
And
had like mist and fog like on the river the whole rest of the time.
and there was that moment where we physically felt the warm front.
Yeah. Which was a little scary for a moment.
It was a little scary, but it was also one of the coolest weather related things I've ever experienced. Having a relatively cool breeze turn into like almost comparatively hot wind on your face. Terrifying in the moment because you know that that's exactly where storms form, is where hot and cold air meet. But
yeah,
just feeling the wind shift like that is like, that was so cool. I love it. I love it. I love it.
It was great. We had a wonderful group of people to go kayaking. Martine and Dalen were supposed to come with us, but neither of them ended up being able to go, which was a very big sad because we talked to them very extensively about going, and they were so excited for it. But they unfortunately weren't able to go. But Sam on the John flips, on the job flips, and his girlfriend Caitlin, they were available to go with us, and so they came with us, and they're just a great couple. Sam is really into ballad songs and made ballad song content for a while, and his girlfriend Caitlin is just a very nerdy, very fun, very from Florida in a fun way.
These
very
two
outdoorsy.
were nerding out like you would not believe.
Oh
my
yeah,
gosh. There were so many points where Sam and I were standing outside of the door to Brandon's office, and they were just in there like you know when two nerds get together, they speak a different language. It was like that, and Sam and I were just like looking at each other like, we don't know what they're talking about, but I know that they are having a great time talking about it.
The main thing was that she really liked Legend of Zelda, the game series, and I have a ton. I'm one of the biggest Zelda nerds you'll ever meet, and I just have a ton of Legend of Zelda related things. They're all over the office. I'm literally looking at a Zelda poster. It's one of the things at the forefront of my office, and I have a ton of Zelda related action figures and ocarinas and just so many things. So we were mostly
your office
nerding out
is
about
like my
that.
dream setup with all the display areas, and
It is wild that you say that.
It's so cool.
It's wild having somebody's dream office, but I'm very blessed to have a pretty damn cool office that I get to keep cool because it looks good for backdrops for B-roll. So
that's the one.
There you go.
It's funny. This is kind of a side tangent, but I want to have it because I'm kind of surprised that you and I hit it off as well as we did in terms of like being friends, because everyone else that you've met through Blade Show who you like really enjoy, the catalyst to you talking to them was being into the same thing. Caitlin, Legend of Zelda, Sam, Halo, Charlie, Lord of the Rings. Like there's so many people who are into something, and you say that was like the thing that kind of made you go, oh wait, this person's cool. And we don't really have that. I guess we have ballad songs.
Yeah, I would say if there would be, it would be ballad songs. I
didn't really think about that for some reason.
It was your streams. That was the inception of our friendship. You posted in the Will Hirsch Discord that you were streaming, and I was like, huh, a ballad song stream. And I knew of you. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. And so I chimed in. And boy, did I chime in. That's one of the... That would perhaps take too long to explain.
The full circle.
The full circle. We did. I've been telling people about our full circle moment. About, God, people just won't know. I can give a brief explanation. There was an inside joke that was developed about me saying the phrase biological stepmother. And now, because of me being perceived as Ethan's father, I could be described as his biological stepfather in the event that like I adopted him or something like that.
We've truly gone full circle.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But no, I would say it was ballad songs. And we do have like shared interests. Like we're both like, we like tech. We like
Yeah, but
video
nothing like
games. We like,
specific like some of your other
yeah.
ones. But you're right, ballad songs. I don't know why I didn't consider that. Um, Side tangent aside, our group was great.
It was great. Yeah. Like it was just a very positive, fun group of people. Yeah, the full group, it was me, Adriana, you, Will, Prism, Sam, and Caitlin. So if you're ever in the Atlanta area, I highly recommend shooting the hooch. You can rent kayaks and tubes and stuff from an official
Who came
place and
up with that?
everything. I know. But there's a ton of cool stuff to see. There was a coffee shop that you can stop at with a beautiful view of the river. There's a bamboo forest that was super cool. It's one of my favorite things about hanging out with Sam. And it totally makes sense that he's a knife guy given the line of work that he does. But we spent a significant portion of our time at the bamboo forest throwing a baseball at a tree, which was just the most like we are men thing
It
to
was
do.
peak man shit. Just
Yeah.
everyone lining up to drill this baseball at this tree in the center of the bamboo forest. It was
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, so it was a beautiful moment. Do you regret not jumping off of Jump Rock?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Zero.
Okay. Okay.
Like
Adriana told me
absolutely
about
not.
Adriana told me that at one point when you were watching it happen, you said something like, "My parents are going to give me so much shit for not doing this."
Oh, if I were to tell them about that, they would be like, "Oh, come on, you got to do that." Jump rock is every. I don't have a terrible amount of fears. Jump rock is every one of them. It is heights, and I'm not even afraid of heights. I'm just uncomfortable with heights.
Yeah.
But it's heights. It's murky water with a unknown bottom that I have to aim for,
Yep.
and it's cold.
Here's a Bala song related question that is
That's not a
related to
fear. I
that.
just hate it. Okay.
What Bala song would I have to that I own would I have to offer to give you for free to get you to jump off of Jump Rock next year?
I don't think there is one.
There's not one, really. Like even I'm
'Cause
saying like even
I
like
would
the
feel
Zyzix.
too bad. I would feel too bad at that
No,
point about
separate
like
from that.
like
Like how much would I have to pay you to jump off of that?
but that's what I'm saying. It's a tough question because at a certain point I would just be like, "Okay, you want me to do this so bad. I will try it."
Okay,
Like I wouldn't
separately from me, you're on a random kayaking trip, and they're like, "Hey, you can jump off this rock," and you're like, "I don't want to do it," and the random tour guide says, "What if I give you blank amount of money? What would be a
I'd hit
convincing amount of money?"
I'd hit like $200.
$200. Okay,
Maybe
okay,
$100. $100
okay,
is also good. Like
okay. I'll bring $300
it's
cash on the river next time, and I'll offer it to you.
see, but in the moment, I don't know if I would take it. It's just
uh,
yeah, there's something about jump rock. I think it really is the bottom, not
yeah,
knowing what the bottom looks like.
yeah. For context,
Jumping
I
off the
jumped off
rock,
it twice.
he did.
So did Caitlin.
He mogged me. But I think my brain just doesn't have like the same adrenaline center that some other people's do because I'm sitting there thinking, jump off the rock, not be able to walk for the rest of my life. That seems like a pretty easy choice to just not do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the
You'd
risk
have to
isn't
do it.
really worth it.
You'd have to really, really, really fuck it up for that to happen. But I do get it. It is
Which is nice to know, but like just I could spend the rest of my life thinking I wish I never jumped off that damn rock. And that is
yeah.
so much better than me thinking I wish I jumped off that rock.
That's fair. Yeah,
That's just
that's
I
fair.
guess that's the way I see it. I don't know. Call me a pussy, call me a
No, it's a
fun
big
hater, whatever you want to call me.
no, it's a big drop.
Also
And if
a
you were to
big drop.
if you were to like belly flop or something like that, you could really like actually injure yourself. So I get it. For context, because we've described it for so long, it's a rock. You can climb up the side of it. That's right off the river. You can access it by kayak, and it's like 25, maybe 30 feet high.
It feels so much higher than that.
Yeah, I don't actually know. I'd have to look it up. I don't actually know how tall it is, but it's not more than 40 or 50 feet. I know that. But I jump off of it every time that it's available, just because I like that kind of stuff. I'm the guy that jumped off of a building in New Zealand and skydived in New Zealand and rolled down a giant hill in a ball filled with water, uh, and jumped off of a cliff as well. So I like that kind of stuff. Um, so, but I'm glad you got to experience other people
So am I.
doing it,
Yeah.
because it is fun. But I'm
Maybe
so
I'll
glad
do
you had
it
a
when
good
it's
time
not
with it.
like, if it's like super hot out, maybe I'll do it. But it just wasn't warm enough out for me to be like, I want to jump into cold water right now.
Yeah. Maybe one day we'll see. Also, if the river was higher too, that would be a benefit, because it can raise it by like a couple feet. But it's a wonderful time. You do not have to jump off the jump rock to have a good time during that whole trek. But it's just one of my main concerns the whole time, which I haven't shared this with you, but I can't tell you how many times I said to Adriana, I really want Ethan to have a good time kayaking. And that's why I wanted the weather to be good. It's why I wanted the kayaks to function properly. It's why I wanted to like all that. I'm like, I've talked to him about it for so long. I just really want him to have a good time. And I'm so glad you had a good time.
I genuinely think it might be the best thing I've done at Blade Show, period.
That is music.
And I'm not
to
even
my
just
ears.
saying that. Like, it was one of those trips where it's like, yeah, this is why I flew down here. Like, this would be worth flying down here for a day or two like this. Separate from Blade Show, separate from the Claskening, separate from hanging out with my favorite people in the world for a week straight. Like, it was genuinely really good.
I'm so glad that you feel that way, because that's how I feel about it too. It's a very special thing that I do with family regularly and friends that come to visit town. It's like, okay, if you're coming to visit and the weather is suitable for it, we're kayaking. Like, we got to make the time for it. So I'm glad that you finally got to do it. And it was just a great way to wrap up the whole experience too, of just getting to do it with that group of people. And it was just very unique. We saw 66 turtles.
We did.
And I know that we did that there were 66 of them. We also saw beavers and otters and a bunch of different types of birds. But we were counting the turtles, and Caitlin was like, we're going to guess a final, like, what we think is the number of turtles that we'll see. And so I said, as a Star Wars reference, execute Order 66. And then we, I guess, ended up seeing 66 turtles total. So that was funny.
Someone should have bought your Waffle House for that. I should have bought your Waffle House for that.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, then we went to Waffle House afterwards, which was the perfect post-kayaking thing, because we hadn't been to Waffle House any other time during the show at that point. Arguably, that Waffle House trip was mildly more memorable than the Iron Age trip. But Iron Age was wonderful.
Yeah.
Again, we did have a great time at Iron Age. Adriana got pictures of you that you basically look the same way, and you're sitting in the same seat from 2024 and 2025. So that was funny.
I didn't even realize they were from different years. I just I saw that she sent the pictures. I was like, oh, hey, thanks for taking those. And then she explained these are two different things. And I looked, I was like, oh, I have different clothes on. Wow.
Yeah.
That is the exact same blissful happiness that I was in last year.
I should have brought in all the Polaroids that we took, because I have a whole big stack of Polaroids. I guess you could show yours. Ethan did an unbelievably awesome Balisong edit. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, beautiful. That was since the zero pocket knife was our most notable thing we bought. Yeah, we held up the zeros. We took so many. I have like 30 or 40 different Polaroids from that whole experience. But you did an awesome edit featuring that Polaroid, which was very touching to me. So check it out on camaroEE on Instagram. Oh yeah, you and Jack.
Pyro.
Yeah.
And then here's me at the Waffle House, which this picture was described. Oh, at the Iron Age, yes. This picture was described as the picture that you would see on a real crime TV show about someone who died, and this was their last picture.
And I added the addendum, and that person was a mid-20s tech company employee.
Yeah. I think the exact quote was, "This is the picture you see on a true crime podcast uncomfortably often throughout the episode
Because
that
they don't
show
have any
way
other
too
pictures.
much."
Yeah, yeah. Like they only had so much media they could pull from, and that was the only real photo they had of you.
Yeah, but that edit was basically, I usually come home from Blade Show with like a lot of creative energy and passion to do something.
Yeah,
And sometimes I waste it. Like last year, I don't think I did anything. But this year, I
yeah.
poured it all into my own take on a Bella song edit, which I call Spark, which did really well. People really resonated with it. I really just made it. I made it, I like to think, for myself. And then with the added benefit that I could get you and Pyro's opinions on it to like show you
Mm.
guys, hey, this is something I can do. What do you think?
Yeah.
Um, but I posted it because I was like, yeah, I might as well.
Yeah, the
And it
fact
was
that
born
you,
from,
or I'm sorry, yeah, the fact that you just released that and it was in that
yeah,
state, which I thought was awesome. Like it had such a cool narrative to it, and like your videography skills are very much at a beginner level. It did
they're
look like
also what I
a
can do with a tripod. So
yes, yeah, no, and it had that like it's not necessarily a cinematography masterpiece, but
no,
the intent you had behind everything shown showed throughout the whole thing, like to the point that it was very inspiring for me, and that I wanna I have a really cool idea for my own edit that will be directly inspired by yours because I thought it was so cool.
that's awesome.
And so I think that's the power of the whole Blade Show experience. I think
Yeah.
that we can it brings us together to share all of the thoughts that we have on these really unique experiences. That is something that, like, as I've tried other knives, like, oh, this gravity knife, it's really cool. It's really interesting. I'm gonna get some cool use out of it. Really neat. This is a really unique piece of engineering, and a really again, just a really unique knife. Really cool manufacturing, great design, really cool. That's it. That's all these are. This has so much more to talk about
Mm-hmm.
from so many different angles, and that's what I find myself appreciating, even in the little session that you and I had. Like me doing that combo that I'm doing here, it feels wrong because it feels so basic to what I've been doing for the last week and a half,
Mm-hmm.
because I was inspired by you and all the flippers that I saw doing all these crazy things. I'm like, I
That's
really want to
that's so
finally
sick.
try to level up my flipping. And I would say just in this last week and a half, I've bumped up a full point rating. I think I've gone from like a 3 or 4 out of 10 flipper to a 5 out of 10 flipper just in this last week and a half, just from the inspiration that I got from all the different people at Blade Show,
That's
and
so
specifically
awesome.
sitting down with you. Yeah, I think it was the final night we were there, and I had said, I'm like, I want to sit down with you and talk about flipping so I can try to get better. And you just gave me a couple of tips, and I figured out some stuff, and now it's great. I'm having more fun with flipping than I've had in a long time. Uh,
We love that.
yeah, and so I think that's the power of all of this stuff, is it just we're able to connect with all these really cool experiences with really interesting people that we don't get to see very much. And the fact that, like, you and I were marveling about the world in all the adventures we had, it was mostly me just talking about, like, it is wild that we live in the world that we do, that a thing like the Blade Bias podcast can exist and that people can watch mostly for free, and that we have all of these different fascinating doohickeys that can do all of these really cool, interesting things, and that there's such a plethora of them in general. Um, like, I'm just finding myself appreciating
No,
that
definitely.
a lot more, that we can even be friends and connect on this such a specific thing, uh and even like I said, do something like this podcast. Like I find myself appreciating that a lot after this Blade show. Because there's just a lot of passion
Yeah.
to go around within it, and I like having this little corner of the internet and this little corner of a larger thing like Blade show that we can just
Definitely.
be really passionate about some really cool stuff. So, and also do fun things like eat a fuck ton of meat at Iron Age
Yeah.
and have a party where we have a 16-person tournament for a board game and then ideal blackjack, and then I find out I have a son and we go kayaking and go hang out at Will's place. Will's place was crazy too. That was a
Yeah,
wild
Will's place
experience.
is popping.
Seeing Vaver, Bryson, Banks, like all these top tier flippers just hanging out in Will's office was a little. Oh, and Maddie was there as well. Oximity in the proximity, as Guy during Ballycomp always says. They were all just in Will's office, and Will's office has a very specific energy to it with Balisong stuff. A, because of all the Balisongs he has. B, because we filmed so many videos in that space. And at one point, yeah, he had like, I would say, 25, 30 people at his place in all the different sections of it. But that was a blast getting to connect with everybody in that environment. We didn't mention at fucking all the bite handle rave.
Holy shit.
God.
This really was a crazy weekend.
Oh my God. We thought this. Remember when we said we wanted this podcast to be 2 hours? Well,
I set a hard cap at 2 hours.
Hard cap at 2 hours.
We
can give a brief recap of that. Bite handle rave was great. Dasuko did an amazing job. Dasuko, Will, and Prism. Prism's Will's partner. Prism was the guest star DJ.
Yeah, and they've only been DJing for
a very short
amount of time, which I had no idea. They did great.
Yeah. So much work went into putting that together, and it was really awesome to see all that come to fruition. Will's DJing side is not something he really chose to the Balisong hobby, but it's arguably, because maybe people are curious about this, a lot of things are changing with the Will Hurst channel. I won't dive into the specifics at this particular moment, but things are changing pretty substantially. And Will's DJing career is arguably why, or a significant reason, more Balisong videos don't happen. Because he puts that much like love and energy into doing it, and he always does a really good job with it. He's put so much time into making really fun DJ sets, and he's done DJ sets in front of thousands of people. And just always puts on a great show. But Dasuko is also awesome at it. Prism was awesome at it. And everybody seemed like they had a really fun time. And we gave away a bunch of Balisongs that Nabalis provided. So people got some genuinely good stuff. The Impulse, which if people are curious about that, the Impulse is freaking crazy for the price. It's so good. I don't know how they made it that cheap, but they did. Gave away a couple Impulses, a couple Volt Pros, a spider knife, which I'm so glad you have the context for. I went and rewatched that video the other day on Blade Bias. It's still so funny to me. But yeah, it was total blast. I hope we can do that every year.
Yeah,
for sure. I would love for a kayaking trip to happen every year. I'd love to have some type of party, and I'd love for the bite handle rave to happen. And honestly, the acid. I'd love for the acid.
I would love to just stay there for 2 weeks.
We can do it. We can make it happen.
I might have to one of these days. Because there was also talk about doing like the in-person podcast, which we didn't even.
Yeah, we did. There was a world where this podcast was going to be in person, but we ran out of time. Seeing how this
went, I'm glad we didn't.
Yeah,
we did not have time.
Yeah,
but it would have been cool.
Yeah, maybe down the road, I'd love to set aside the time to make that happen, because it's much easier to show things and illustrate things when we're together. We'll see. But yeah, I think that's the Blade Show experience of 2025 wrapped up. There's so many other things we could touch on that we didn't even mention here, but I feel like we hit pretty much all the high points and all the things worth mentioning. As always, if you have questions about Blade Show or questions about the things we talked about or questions about things we tried, you can leave a comment. Because that's fun. Typing is fun, isn't it?
Typing.
Let's
is
talk
fun.
about typing. So typing began in 1948 when John Typist. No, I'm kidding.
John Typist on the John Typist flips.
I wonder if. Oh my God, is this? Oh my God, my Bally quill has leaked onto my desk. It's not ink. It's the water I filled it with.
That's so sick. Guys, if you hung around this long, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this double feature Blade Show podcast, because usually we do an hour and a half. This has been 3 hours I've been recording for. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Thank you, as always, to Brandon for being an amazing co-host and dedicating the time out of his ridiculously busy schedule to talk to my dumbass for an hour and a half, or in this case, 3 hours.
It's tough to find time for things when you got a 13-year-old son to take care of.
I am a handful.
You are a handful.
But yeah, thank you
thank
again to everyone who came up and said hi at Blade Show. It was an amazing time. I hope you guys had just as amazing of a time, especially if it was your first Blade Show. I hope it was really, really memorable for you. But that's pretty much it. We're gonna get going.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So the thing, I'm gonna out myself. I have basically had this in my hand the whole time that we've been doing this, and I've just been fidgeting with it very slowly and closing it quietly by grabbing the blade a little bit so it doesn't make as much noise. But I'm just gonna go keep doing this. So that's where you can find me. Thanks for watching the Blade Bias podcast. We'll see. Ideally, not in 3 to 4 months. Ideally,
and
less
we'll
than
see
that.
you next time, where the next podcast will literally just be us clicking this thing for an hour and a half and communicating in Morse code.
Sponsored by Rivery Manufacturing, the Blade Bias Morse Code Challenge.
If you can figure out what we were saying in this episode, you get a free Rivery Zero.
But you have to claim it on the river via kayak. Because it's river. River, hard cut the podcast now.